decisions are to be made on the revenue side, and of course on the expense side we'll kind of go through. But I thought it'd be helpful just to kind of help set the stage to just kind of share some of the high-level changes, what those were driven by, if there were things that we haven't been talked about a ton, or just kind of smaller pieces that I think have a big moving impact. We just kind of again hit that to set the stage, and like Jim said, just dive into the details as desired. So from the ad valorem side, of course, at that 7.42 millage rate, the taxable value increased, of course, 14.3%, with rollback being about 5.95 level versus the 6.5.
Page 21. Page 21 would be the highlight of what that's going to be.
Yeah, so many of these numbers kind of pulling from there on this as far as the comparison. Just to kind of set the stage again in terms of the revenue differential, because we're going to talk about the expense side of pretty major impacts there. The flat millage down to rollback is about a $110,000 change relative to kind of where we were last year. We're going to roll back to what that revenue would be, so that 14.3%, all else equal, gets us about $110,000 in additional revenue. From 6.5 to the 7.42, it's about a $175,000 swing. So just kind of for quick perspective, kind of one extreme to the other, from the 7.42 to roll back to 5.95, we're talking almost about a $300,000 swing, just to kind of put in perspective, because some of the expense items pretty quickly eat into that, where there will be probably some major numbers to be looked at as far as the decisions, how to get things in balance, if there is a desire to go lower and so forth. So I just want to quickly give that perspective from 7.42 to roll back. It's about a $300,000 swing on the revenue side. Otherwise on the revenue, one thing that I noted that I feel like the city's kind of enjoyed, like everybody else, is a lot of our revenue every year comes from the state in the form of gas taxes, communication service taxes, the two big ones being the municipal sales tax program and municipal revenue sharing. In recent years, we've probably averaged a 10 to 15% in those revenues, which are in the couple $100,000s. This year is pretty much flat. So we're normally maybe get a $50,000 positive swing in recent years in terms of what we project as available revenue. When we got those projections in the last week or two, pretty much everything was within about 1 or 2%, so more or less flat in terms of dollars. Other notable revenue, just major revenue sources and trends. The franchise fees, utility taxes, primarily they're driven by Duke Energy. Did have that about a $40,000 to $50,000 increase over the prior year, just kind of based off of recent trend analysis. Fire and solid waste, of course, major revenues, those being adjusted, the rates, that's basically indexed to those contractual expenses. So we won't really focus too much there, other than just to acknowledge that those changes were designed to mirror the expense side. One other notable item on the revenue side, kind of as part of getting everything to balance, being a little bit more aggressive, was on the interest income side. In the past, we've budgeted about $15,000 to $20,000. Of course, interest rates have been up, so we are trending, probably $70,000, maybe a little bit higher in the current fiscal year, of course, as rates are high. We have bumped that interest income again as part of making everything balanced to $75,000. At current rates, that should be good. I did want to just highlight that because in terms of saying, what potential risk or exposure is there of not hitting a revenue number and coming in below budget on the revenue side, if there are any major cuts from the Fed or otherwise that have a trickle-down impact, that's just one that I did want to highlight as where we are today. $75,000 is reasonable, but it is one that historically we've tried to stay conservative so we don't get burned if rates were to go down. So that's on the revenue side again. If you look at the ad valorem, ad valorem And on the $50,000 on franchise fees, about $50,000 positive swing on the interest. That's kind of where the ground has been made up on the revenue side of what those major changes are from the prior year. On the expense side, of course, there's smaller adjustments as everyone's gone through and kind of dissected the details, what are the needs for the upcoming year. But I did want to just quickly highlight really three major drivers on the expense side when we look at the budget in total. First is the police retirement expense. We talked about that at the February workshop and an audit presentation in terms of the overall impacts there. The last 3 years, our covered payroll is just about double in the police pension plan. For that, state money is not sufficient to cover the required contributions into the plan. Based on the rates that we received in late January, early February, about 43% or so, I believe, to get that required contribution where it is based on those rates is about $120,000 in expense over what was in the fiscal year 24 budget. So that's kind of an increase right off the top just to meet that minimum required contribution. Total personnel, there are some additional positions in there, which Rick, of course, can speak to. And just high level, the total personnel budget, all in, every employee increase there was about $250,000. So the bulk of that does, of course, fall in the general fund. A small portion is in the water utility, but most of that did hit the general fund. In the road department, other operating increases there to the tune of about $100,000, and those, again, Rick can speak to. The biggest drivers there were tree maintenance, road intersection, paving, and other work, kind of getting it to where it needed to be after some of those had been reduced in prior years. So those are the biggest changes. If we looked at kind of what's last year looked like in the general fund on the expenditure side to the current year. A couple other quick highlights, just want to acknowledge in terms of what other adjustments have been made to get everything currently in balance at that 7.42 level. For probably 5-6 years, we've had the hurricane reserve where we set aside generally about 2% of the budget to be available for hurricane expenses in the event we need it. If we don't have to spend it, that money then transfers into the hurricane or eventually capital reserve based on the policy adopted by the commission, again, about 5 or 6 years ago. Last year, that was a $70,000 set aside. That number is at zero. So basically taking that kind of luxury, so to speak, that does give us a little bit of more wiggle room contingency being ready for hurricanes. That has been taken out of the budget. Last year, as part of getting everything in balance, we did reduce the millage at the first or second public hearing. We allowed last year for about $58,000, basically vacancy allowance. So we have this total personnel budget, and that assumes that every position is filled from October 1 to September 30. Some cities will do this, some budget at 100%, some are less, and we see varying levels. What we've done is we've upped that vacancy allowance, I'll call it, to there's a contra or negative $90,000 expense in the budget, which basically represents saying, hey, we expect we'll have some vacancies, so we just have all the amounts of what we have in the budget, and we deduct kind of $90,000 to account for that fact. So that's one where, again, in the event we were fully staffed in every position from day 1 to day 365, that would be approximately an unfavorable variance of $90,000. So that's kind of, again, the risk we run, but vacancies are common. 5% vacancy rate is not unreasonable to assume as there would be some new positions that have to be filled, and no guarantee who's going to stay throughout the entire duration of the fiscal year. So new positions have been increased. And then we do currently, just on the water utility fund side, as part of getting everything in balance there to address the capital needs identified, we're at about a negative $200,000 current year kind of operating with covering capital. So in the budget currently, we have a $200,000 usage of ARPA funds proposed that's being moved into the water utility fund to cover those capital items that Rick had identified. So those are the highlights. I guess any high-level questions, things you want to touch on, or we can
Before I start presenting my thoughts on the budget, I want every employee in here to know that I have never said that I was expecting to take your benefits plan, ever. That would be stupid. Now, when Mr. Gleason presented me with the 9.27 tax rate, I did talk to him about this is unacceptable, we're gonna have to look at different things, possibly insurance cost sharing, but never would I think about taking anybody's benefits for it. You drown if you had to go to the emergency room one time. So please, if you've heard that on the street, I know it's on the street, never said by me, don't know who said it, but don't believe it, okay? So with that being said, I would like to go at some of the high-end items first. And then there's a couple of items that I noticed that are spread out through the budget that doesn't actually fall in with maybe a particular department. And I may be wrong about that, but that's not really have the department listing of all the line items. I think that since and of course this is up to the commissioners, payroll typically is the largest part of anybody's expenses in a business, and I would like boys to look at that portion first, so we don't try to be able to back out constantly, because I know we're gonna have some more meetings if we're gonna go line by line, and like what was requested and cut it off. If you look, I'm sorry, if you look.
Excuse me, Commissioner, it's really hard to hear if, I know you guys don't have an audio system set up, but you just project a little bit louder so you can hear, please. Thank you.
I'll try.
So you want to start from page 11?
If it's okay.
Yes, please.
Looking at what we have for the current year and knowing what we had for this year, 23, there's, the numbers aren't adding up. For instance, the deputy city clerk salary is 75,000, and I can tell you that on September 14th, 23, in a special meeting, timeframe 806, was reporting that Mr. Basso made a motion to hire the deputy city clerk, and then at timeframe 815, the mayor, Cameron Lane, set the salary at 70,000, which was what was set by Mr. Abbott, as Mr. Abbott knows, because it was quite a conversation regarding that issue. So I'm wondering if on September 14th, she was hired, she hasn't completed the year yet, but she got a 5% COLA in October. That would come out to 73.5, I believe. But yet, we've got her listed at 75. And then with a COLA of 3,000, which would bring her
$5,000 difference comes, and I have a document in the office, and I'll be more than happy to provide to you, was the agreement Lee had with Roxanne that the $70,000 and at 6 months review should be brought up to 75, which is what was paid the previous position. So that's what the $5,000 is.
And that nothing for commission.
I have it as
I know, I'm
the
just
hiring
telling you.
agreement, so that's.
So is there a contract?
And I do have it in writing, because I wouldn't do something like that without a document from Mr. Yvette.
That was the way Lee did things. He did a lot of things without us.
That's so against the charter. Okay, so then you've got a document that there was this private agreement between the two parties in 6 months, which would be, I guess, performance review time. She would go receive the 5% COLA and then get up to an additional 75,000. Okay. And that never came before the commission. And then also, looking at the 2 admin assistants, permits, and accounts payable. Understanding what the other adjustments are at 4326. It's being added in. So we've got their salaries, and we've got their COLA. Correctly. But then there's adjustments for those 2 positions as admins, but then I don't see an adjustment for the admin of ED. So can you explain to me what that adjustment is?
Yeah, and on that one, there's a $2 adjustment for each employee, to bring them up to market rate. And again, it's the commission's decision what to do. That's what's proposed, is to bring them up $2 an hour to the market rate. And it kind of comes out of the fiasco of the hours they were working and the overtime and what have you. And so that $2 increase is a $2 hourly increase, and then their 4% COLA will be on top of that.
Okay. And then looking at the city administrators, the salary is at 125, and going with 4% COLA, it's listed at 7,500. Can someone tell me what 4% of the 125 actually is?
The commission agreed on a contract with me at 6%, and that takes place in February, so that's not a full year increase. So that goes into effect in February, and that is in the contract that the commission signed.
There's some of the payrolls that are covered by contracts rather than by the,
But we can contract,
well, the union has a contract that says a certain percentage, and Lee's contract has a certain
I
percentage.
think Lee had a 10% increase, and I
So you're
negotiated a
actually,
lower amount
so you're actually getting 6%.
in February, not October 1st.
I think my note too just said it's the greater of 6% for the COLA. So if there was an 8% citywide COLA, that would then kick in as well for Jim. It's not.
Well, that makes sense and explains it, but my math just wasn't coming up to 75% using the 4% COLA. And I don't have comments on that. I'm going to stop right there and let the other commissioners speak, and then I'm going to come back with some things that I would like to see happen. It may be drastic in some areas, it may not be popular in some areas, but if we're looking at this rate, not being able to get away from the 7.42, we're going to have to cut some. And hopefully, I would hope that we can cut it back into line items, but if not, we're going to have to come down to payroll.
In Linden, these payrolls are in those line items, so it would be the same thing. So any adjustment in here would affect the payroll to the line items.
We're not talking about in other departments.
Keep in mind that police other than the admin who was put in at a 4% COLA. You're locked in under the contract, so we can't change it. Okay.
I have a question. Not a question, yeah. It's an inquiry. The general maintenance workers, that's two positions and a events coordinator, that they are the NA. Explain the NA, not applicable,
They were in the
regular
new positions.
Okay.
They were not in the current fiscal year's budget.
so they're not in this year coming up.
No, they're in the proposed one.
There's a proposed budget that has that two men for two individuals.
Yeah,
For maintenance.
look under the 2025, they weren't in 2024.
Right.
They're in 2025.
They're in 25, okay. So that means that we have to hire, we have that hired yet.
No, well, no, because
That's
they haven't been approved.
Gotcha. All right.
And we recommend we would hire if they were approved.
Yeah, I understand, okay, thank you.
This is for raising money.
Yeah, there's three spots, two city, maintenance, and one for the event coordinator.
And that is the one that you had at 60 last year. You guys can set that number, but in getting into 7.42, that was an item that started out at 26, 24, and at 12. But again, all of those are the discretion of the commission. It's just what's being recommended in order to balance the budget at the current 7.14.
So first one being just about 811 right now. Just overall, I'd like to see it increase to 3%. That would be my overall idea. And then I'd like to hear more about the Public Works Department and what the plan is and what that looks like and why these people are needed, if there's some job duties or a list of what these people will be doing. And then lastly, second to last, I don't think we need a special events coordinator. We've talked about this before. We have the GEMS now. They've already expressed interest in stepping up and wanting to do more and assist the city and et cetera, et cetera. I just think that putting a line item in for 12 grand, almost 13 grand, a lot of dollars just feels frivolous at this point since we are trying to make cuts. And then very last, I don't think we need a raise. Take that out. That's the shorthand notes that I have for this page.
If I could adjust the general contract, I have held off sending you the information because I do not have it in writing. Mr. Cook has advised me personally, they want to terminate the contract and they no longer want to be involved in managing and running the jail. I held off holding that out because I wanted it in writing in terms of that, because this is all part of the rewrite of the contract. When I followed up with him, he said they just decided they're done, they want to walk away, they're not interested in doing it.
That's hugely disappointing.
Now, I still don't have it in writing, so if something could change, that's why I didn't send it out. I mean, things there, but if we're kind of making decisions tonight based on they're there, I at least have to tell you based on the information that was provided.
Thank you for that.
I got a question and some statements on the payroll. Personally, why are we offering positions starting with a starting pay at $20 an hour when our starting pay was set at $15 an hour in 2021 to be ahead of the state's requirement of a minimum wage of $15 an hour?
We can put it down there. I was gonna figure in the range between 15 and 20, depending on the person you get there. You may get somebody for 18,
lucky if anybody qualified at 20. So if you can reduce it down, it's just a number. You know, we may have somebody come and just mows where they're very green, and they come in at 17 or 16 or whatever. I won't know until you approve and we go there at 20, at least that's a standard number to try to get somebody in here. I talked to the county this morning, they were actually out there, met me out there on East Ohio for the FEMA, where the tree fell and we took out the road, to give us a price on it, they bid it out, nobody wanted to do it. He was telling me they had 150, he was over 150 men, he's down to 105. He's interviewed. One of them come in, couldn't even stand up. One of them came in an hour late, first day of work. He said, Rick, good luck. So we're gonna face that too. I don't even think we'll get anybody, if we approve it October 1, you're probably looking December at the very earliest, I think, by the time we advertise, you know, do all that stuff. November and December is the very earliest we even think about anybody. I think it's gonna be a very hard process too.
And the 20 would be not to exceed.
Yeah,
Roger, also I believe in February of 2022, would be second minimum of 17.
Is it 2022?
yeah, I don't know.
I thought it was late 21, but maybe it's early 22.
And as a hiring manager for a company right now, I can tell you the labor market is unprecedented. It is definitely a worker's market right now. And getting qualified applicants is extremely challenging. We could stack them 10 at a time and have one show up. So I definitely understand the struggle that you're presented with.
It's gonna be a struggle, no matter what.
And my reason behind questioning that is that the balancing of the current employees at that time, was to correct any differences so that current employees' pay would not be lower than any new employee. The push to raise employees' pay above $20 an hour was an attempt to justify contracting out all of Lake Helen's jobs by making it cheaper to hire out, since the contracted company would be paying their employees less per hour. That's the reason why I question the higher pay that we're offering.
And again, until you get the applicants there to see what qualifications they are, some may come in, but if you have a $17, then obviously we start there not to exceed that. You know, that's going to be out of that. But regardless of what we do here, if you hire 2 people, I will tell you, you're still going to farm stuff out. Some things are going to be done. Tree trimming, we don't have the equipment. It's $1 million to start a tree up, get crews, you know, stuff like that.
When I talk about contracting park bounces, the whole department
Oh.
would be contracted. They
You
would get rid of all the employees and contract out the services.
need it up and going. You need it up and going, trying to contract that out.
So you're saying, depending on what their qualifications are, what exactly are you looking for them to do that's not being done now?
Well, mowing, we still have mowing, doing stuff, we're mowing, must be, I'm on mower, if you don't see me out there, you'll see me right now. We have mowing, we're behind severely right now, there's the weather and everything else, we just don't catch up. I actually have, I guess I can give you guys this out right now, I was gonna wait, but you jumped right in the line, so I'm not supposed to get you that to you now. I have enough probably for you, most, I didn't know how many people we're gonna have here. There you go. Remember, I'm not the best, this is the first budget I've really ever been involved with. Feeling it out here. I do have these, you guys want to share? You guys want to share one? I didn't know how many people were going to be here. Bob, I'm sure you want one. And bear with me, I may start coughing because I'm not here to cough. I hope this will allude to something.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, if it's to do with mowing, I really would like to get some outside bids as to what, even if we just took the parks off and gave that to somebody outside. We're not gonna pay insurance on those people, we're not gonna pay retirement on those people. And If they can't come in, if they're sick, that's on them, that's not on us. I talked to South Daytona, and they do their parks, they outsource their parks to be cut, take that off of their men. I also talked to Oak Hill, they have 3 public works employees, and their supervisor, the top one, is making $58,968 a year. Pearson has 3 public works employees, and they have that, that ball field that gets used a lot, and they have to keep in pristine condition. They also have an airplane field that they have to keep up. Their top guy is $43,305. He makes $20.82 an hour, and he's their supervisor. So I'm just wondering what is not getting done, and do we have a lot of complaints from people about stuff not being done through Public Works?
Complaints we get, we try to attack right away, because we're reacting right now more than anything else. Again, can I go through this first? Because I really think this will probably help you a little bit more. And if not, so when you look at the first page, this is my office. This is the boards I have up here for different areas and stuff. These are just some of the highlighted things like projects, things we have come up, a tree over somebody calls in, we put it on a list to get either done by us or a tree we have done by CFT or whoever. Water we have, okay, we've got a leaky valve over here, we've got not pouring out, we've got to get to it here. We have water meter services that to be put in, they're on schedule, Debbie will say, hey, we've got somebody pay a permit, they're building on Linden Avenue, you've got to go out there and put the water service in, okay? And we do that too now, because you have been paying that, and the average cost to get a service put across the road from the previous contract was about $7,000 or $8,000. We do it for the cost of the road board, which is passed on to the consumer, and then it costs about $1,650 with the impact fees, and about roughly $1,000 to go across the road. They were charging $6,000 plus now because they weren't doing it in-house, we're paying them to have it done. And then I don't know if the city paid for that, or if it was poured to the resident or whoever was building. But that's an extreme amount of money there that was either being captured by Lake Ellen and just ate, or it was being passed on to the homeowner trying to build a house. But this is why I go into everything when I walk in. I try to adjust the board and everything there. Now, if you'll turn to the next page, bear with me, please, what I thought would be proper. This is Church Street. As you turn on the Church Street, you're a little high. Now, I'm going to ask you this will help. This will be my last page, I'll put it first. And when you look at this, everybody here, when you look at this, what do you mostly see as not public works, but as you drive down the road, you turn the corner, what do you see? You see a road, you see everything like you normally do, you're going down the road. In my eyes, in our eyes, I turn the corner, I see the road edges are not done yet, we have to get them done, they're behind. I see the right-of-ways growing out, I see the grass growing too high, you can't get the right-of-way grass because of that. I see the trees overhanging the road, and I know the sidewalks cracked all the way down through there on that one end, and then from there. So that's what I see every time I go down the road. You know, it's not just as a road, so I look at things differently than what you do. You know, most people do. So if you flip the page, this is just some examples. This is actually by Kelly Flores' house. This is John Street in Jackson, it's overhanging there. We have that, that goes down to some of the roads. A few years ago, before I left, we started doing a tree program where they would come in so much a year and go down sections of the city and trim the trees up, canopy them where available, and do that. Well, when I left, you had 21 months of no tree trimming, no ditch cleaning, no nothing, anything there, road edging, anything, and now you're 2 years behind. So you got to start over on that, you know. So we'll move on. This is Elvira, this is over by Rogers. We just had a company go out there and cut the right of way back as far as they could. We still have the road full of dirt, it's hard to see. Full of dirt, the road's not completely open, so you have to go a little farther in the dirt. And so that has to be removed there, the road edge and all that. So that's another thing. If you look again.
That depression on the right side of the road there is where a tree used to be in the road and they got removed.
Yeah. So then you go here, we have McKinsey. This is McKinsey down when we had remember we had the stormwater project where you guys did it out when I came back. It was almost $100,000 and you couldn't do it. When I came back, I contacted the county and they did it for $45,000 instead of $100,000. So we had savings of $50,000 right there. But if you look at this road edge, this is a swamp. We can't mow with mowers. It just dies off. It has to be done with what we call a slope mower. That's a mower with an arm on it. We also do around our lakes and everything, and a lot of the right-of-ways they push back, they can push back and go up and over. This was done maybe 3 weeks ago. It's summertime. It's got, it gets higher than the cars. You can see it coming up to the sign right now. The sign's about 6 foot to the bottom. So this is something that has to be done constantly. This goes back to when you go deeper into the budget and stuff. Road edges and stuff, we do all road edges. To answer your question, Charlene, we did road edges when the winter came a little bit. We started doing, when you went down this area, you see the road and the dirt out in there and everything, we started doing that. If you move on, Heather had gotten contacted by everybody at Euclid and Pasadena Road, Brett's Meat Market. The worst intersection in Lake Helen right now. Okay? It is what I call a quilt of pothole patch. It sinks like this and goes down. This needs to be done by a company that can go in and mill this whole intersection out, bring a paver's box in and do that. We had the county come out and give us a price this year. I believe I got that one, and the one at Washington and Lake is also another bad one. This is the worst one. I believe it's about $15,000 repair for them.
But that's outsourced.
Yeah, it would have to be outsourced.
Well, that's what I'm saying, everything's gotta be outsourced, so why do we need 2 more men?
Not, please finish.
Yes,
Please.
yes,
Next one is East Ohio. We had it paved years ago when Ann was here, actually. We did, it used to be tar and gravel. We had more patch on that road than it had asphalt. It's cracking up because of the years. We got to be able to patch that there and also put dirt on the road edges and build them up. That's what your people will be doing. We would not outsource that. We would send them out there to do that right there. Okay? They would do the road edges, build them up so they don't break off, so we don't lose our road. After you cut them, on some of them, you go back and do the other ones that are tore up. Sidewalks. We don't do sidewalks. I'll try and don't do sidewalks. We send it out. This is what we've been preaching to you about. This is behind the ball field where your kids, your neighbors' kids, your grandkids, your nieces, all go to school through that back ball field. That's a 2-foot drop in that sidewalk. The whole sidewalk is completely ruined. Over the years, it was built on a dump. And it was crushed over the years and it was there. That's about I think the price I got was between $45,000 to $60,000 to replace that sidewalk. It's 5 foot wide, I believe it's not wider, and it goes all the way there. The county put it in originally for us and said, here you go, it's yours now. So that's what's finished. I think we actually took out the budget from the CIP, which I had in the back of the thing. I'm just giving you some of the things. We would edge that sidewalk, okay, and take care of it, but we have to do it here. The next one is West Ohio Avenue. You have a sidewalk there somewhere. We have not been able to edge it. We have a school starting next week. We have a Miami curbing. That's what the guys have been doing, or would have been doing, and have been having here. And I believe we just did, actually took one meeting with my guys, did the crepe myrtles and trimmed the crepe myrtles back. We also did the sidewalk right there in that one section, and that took hours upon hours to get done. And if you let it go, it's going to keep, it's a constant thing. It doesn't stop. The grass grows on it. It never stops. It's always there.
Is this in front of houses?
Yeah.
Thousands?
Yes, ma'am. On West Ohio, this is in front of all the houses down through there. Yes, ma'am.
That's the down the street from my house.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. It's your whole sidewalk.
And I cut this grass myself. A lot of times, because on the corner, there's a piece of property that I've been cutting up for years. Because this is on my block, I feel as a neighbor that it's my duty. Okay, it's my responsibility.
And even if everybody did their own front, you still have dead areas that we have to do no matter what that don't belong to anybody that live there. It's vacant land and we have to do.
Well, piggybacking off of what the mayor said, every place I ever lived, and I'm on a lot of homes, always had a right of way. But it was up to the homeowner to maintain that right of way.
It's not required to.
There's no home there.
It was required over in Bell County.
From
There's a lot of people in Deltona that.
From Ohio?
Right away.
Yeah.
from Ohio to Church Street, there is only 2 houses. The rest of it is vacant.
What you see here is all vacant,
It's all vacant.
all vacant. Good.
There's one house that got built there, and
And they're not gonna do the Miami curbing either, that's what you see on the out on the road, that Miami curbing has to be done too, that was what they had to do the road, they realized it wasn't wide enough, they went back and did Miami curbing, and you were here, I started right, and they did it Miami curbing, you have to cut that, because that's where your water comes down, it goes into that area right here at the bottom, you have to replace. All right?
And you have all the driveways.
Yes, ma'am.
Around the way.
Yes, ma'am, everywhere, all the way down, every right of way.
So it's just a continual amount.
Mowing, weeding, edging, if you keep up with it, yes, ma'am.
Everything that's got to go with grass.
Yes, ma'am.
The blowing, the
Yep,
whatever.
yep. Yes.
What square footage?
CFP does around the lakes, right?
With their slow mower,
That's right.
yeah, just the back part there, yes.
Okay.
We don't have a slow mower, and by the time you buy one, and the liability of it, it's not cost efficient. $200,000 for a slow mower, you're not gonna get your money back, you have people there, more people to add on to it, the liability, you get a car, they have all the liability, we have the liability when it comes to that.
now that spot on Church Street, right next to where Mark Williams' house, the county jail, or the prisoners used to do that.
Absolutely
And
right.
it is also it's in a waterway that once, when that hurricane gets here, and that water cannot flow, we will have a backup, and the road is also will be compromised.
Sir, the road is compromised
Well,
this afternoon. No, it actually fell in this afternoon.
No, it doesn't have to?
Yes, I was gonna tell you, Jim, tomorrow, we have a major problem there too, but I wanna try to push DOT. Because one, that's a DOT coming straight from there. So, that happened this afternoon. One of my guys was out there to see where it had crushed in, so we've already roped off the sidewalk and everything there, but you're right. They quit doing, they said, it's on you now, take care of the ditch. The ditch is now overgrown beyond, because we used to have one with the boom mower and boom mow it. We have to have that done again. That was actually on, to have it done now, during the hurricane season, get it done. I need to have it done, but we didn't know if we were gonna freeze, so we kinda, it's a stormwater issue. We have some areas there that are bad, and the ditch is not, you can't see the ditch, you can hear the water, but it's on us to take care of that.
That property is for the DEP, if they're requiring us to maintain it for them, we need to send them the bill.
And we do. I mean, they told us it was ours to take care of years ago.
State property, make them pay for it.
And that's where we came.
That's why they used to have the prisoners come out and maintain it,
Yeah.
because it was their property.
Well, because I would speak to the guys over there, and their problem was with getting officers there to stay with the inmates while they were cutting. So they cut back on putting the inmates in the field because they didn't have the manpower to provide that service, if you want to call it that. This has been a problem. Well, it's a problem that has been addressed more times than I can recall, because the woman that used to live there was Dr. Margaret Williams. Margaret Williams, between Margaret Williams' house and the Thayer apartments over there, so the 3 apartments over there, they would always make an issue about it, and it was always addressed. Margaret Williams is dead now. The issue is still there. And the fact that it keeps growing, I mean, that's my thing. I like cutting grass. Don't ask me why. I'm cutting other people's grass because it gives me the exercise. But if I'm not doing it, it doesn't go away. It just keeps growing. And then the weather system that we have now, if I were to continue to cut my grass away, I used to have to cut my grass 3 or 4 times a week to get it to look the way I like it. But the rain keeps coming, it keeps coming, and that's with on the lawn. So you can imagine some of the outlying places where we don't have the equipment nor the manpower. And each time, and I'm speaking only because I know the kinds of work that Rick does, and one of the things that I always get on this case about, is that the things that he saves the city, we never see. We can get in a budget and we can start counting nickels and dimes. He saves us tens of thousands of dollars. We don't capture that. So it's kind of hard with me, I'm hearing him putting what he's done. And like you said, the piece that should also keep in mind is that for 21 months, we didn't have anybody doing anything around this city. So now to catch up with 21 months, I give him credit for what he's done. So in looking back, I can see where he's
So
did a
you're
lot.
saying the 21 months he was on that whole team that we had here didn't do anything?
I'm saying that the
That's
20,
what y'all not doing?
I'm saying, let me just clarify that. I'm saying that the things that were being done before Ricky left, and then when he left, there was a lot of things that stopped getting done along with the equipment in that space. So he's back, and now he's, I'll say, catching up. But the bottom line is that we are not catching up as a city, because if that little board that he has on there, if he puts in there, and that board's now got leaks, we have events that are popping up, we have special events that are popping up. So if we're just talking about cutting grass and weeding and mowing, that's all well and good, but when you add into it something that pops up out of the blue, I mean, when Ricky came back, we were getting ready to do the 4th of July celebration, and Royal Park was underwater. And he was supposed to start on, I think, on a Monday, and they got him to start before the 4th of July so that it would look presentable. So I'm hearing us trying to get to the nickel and dime, but I don't think we really are going to cut back and then be able to say.
That's why I'm saying a lot of this grass cutting could be outsourced to a company, and I would ask Jim to please try to look at it and get some pricing for just the parts in the cemetery and nothing else. And see what that would cost us versus $125,000 for 2 more employees.
I think Rick would be better at doing that because he knows what needs to be done, and he would be able to go to the company and say, this is what we need.
I have no problem doing that, but I will tell you that in the past, a little bit, it's been many years. What you have is, you have a certain amount of cuts they do, okay? They're gonna tell you, how many times do you want to cut this? Now you have a special event or something comes up. You're paying to have that cut. Grass grows a little bit more. We're trying to cut about every 7 days.
During some months, you're not cutting it like that.
Our summer here is about 7 months of cutting.
I'm telling you, it needs to be looked at, is all I'm saying. I'm not saying we have to go that route. I'm just saying we should get some prices because just to compare. I mean, we can't just sit here and make all these decisions without having something to work off of to compare things to. Because then we're making, as Heather said the other day, decisions out of ignorance because we don't have all of the information. It's just my opinion. Everybody knows how that goes, but I'm just saying.
Just to add to that, one of the reasons I don't have anybody cut my lawn is because they have a number of times they want to cut. So if I want my lawn to look the way it's going to look, I'm not going to ask for 3 extra cuts. I cut it myself. So in the long run, if I know that I don't have if we hire somebody, they have a contract because they have workers. Their contract is going to be the number of what's going to be the most expeditious for them. If they say 2 times, 2 times it's going to be. We have a heavy rain, we have a storm, 2 times is what it's going to be. So in some way or another, if we have guys in-house, we dispatch them to do things that we need on the moment, not by the
I
contract.
have my lawn that I on call, so that when he drives by my house and sees my grass needs to be cut, he cuts it. I don't have a limited amount of time that it needs to be done. So there are different types of contracts that you can get. But let me just say this, and I just want to make this point. Employees want what the employees want. There's a lot of citizens that want the employees to have what the employees want, but they don't want to pay for it. So at some point, either we're going to have to charge the citizens who don't want to pay for it but yet want it, or we're gonna have to say, I'm sorry, you can't have this right now because we need to stick within our budget. Sounds to me like y'all are just wanting to just blow the budget without even trying to get more information out there. Then let's just do that. I'm fine with that.
I make a recommendation.
Yes. For me to shut up?
No. We, the two positions are 127,212, okay? We know what that would be in the budget. Rick and I will sit down and have him identify those parks and those areas so we know what it is we're bidding out.
Right.
From a safety standpoint, moving forward, I would be more comfortable leaving the number as it is now, because
Right, because you don't know that.
I don't know what that is, and
I
I,
haven't even got through the
and
rest
so,
of the
meaning
presentation.
that number can reduce, remember, we can always go down, but we don't want to go up. So I know then what to compare against. If he identifies those areas where we Google it out, identify a field, he can put out a packet and say, these are the areas, and we can get companies in. So between now and September, we could get maybe some accurate numbers to see, could this 127 to 112 be reduced under contracted services?
We've also had droughts where there hasn't been any rain, and because they didn't have to cut, then we could move them someplace else. Because we did have a couple of instances where fireworks were even up in the air because we didn't know if there was going to be a fire pole on no burn, no, fires to be had anywhere. So
If the commission was open to that, then, we could leave that as a worst-case scenario, and then let us go and do that step in between, and then do everything our best to have that long before the September 12th meeting in the Senate, and just see if we can come something back. Because if we cut that tonight, and then I turned out the contract services, it's going to cost us.
You're still gonna have a price.
Oh, yeah,
You're still gonna
no,
cost.
cut it out tonight.
And I think the cost is gonna be way more than what you think. I'm not saying
But-
you. I don't care, I don't mind the exercise, but I'd like to finish my presentation
But
first.
we'll at least be able to compare the two costs.
I got lots of pictures left, I'd like to finish my presentation, because that alleviates to what you said. Take the mowing off, if you were to do that. Next page, please.
Yes.
Cemetery. You guys spent the money last year on a survey, correct? Some of it, we broke it down to the block letters and whatever it is now. We have a lot of orange flags out there. We have rebar on the ground that's buried in the ground to mark where they are. We have got to, and I've been working on this, we've got to take, when I've come to think I've got the idea, take a 2-inch PVC pipe, dig around those things, bury it down, fill it with concrete. You're gonna lose them rebar in the ground. You're gonna never know where they're at least with the concrete. It may be a 3-inch pipe you gotta do to mark those big corners in the inside there. Otherwise, everything you guys are paying for and we see is gone. Realize that. While we're here also, we now know where the roads are. Some people are in the roads, some people are not. Some people are driving over people, some people are not. We have in the budget to cut and build the actual roadways in there to deviate where the cemetery looks. When you drive to the cemetery, you go this way, there's a road there and a road there. So what you see there is the main one coming in. Once you turn the corner to go down, that's a roadway. We're gonna cut that road out of the dirt. Either we'll do it or whatever. Get the millings in there and mill it, and then and hire a roller to come in and roll it.
That was my question, is the city crew going to actually do this, or will the outsourcing this to?
Well, it depends on what you decide there.
No, what I'm saying,
If we can do it internally, yes. If not, I've been speaking to Mr. Preston here on trying to get some help out there. Even with volunteer help. No matter what you do, let me finish because I'm going to get off of, I don't want to talk. And this here is the cemetery road going in off Root Street. It is so terrible, it needs to be rebuilt again, and it's a constant thing. It's not it's a once-a-year thing. And last time we rolled it last, you have a lot of storm water that runs down through there and the drain right there. So that's also in the budget under road materials and stuff to get done, have it roll, and it does last better when you roll it. But that's another expense you have in here on the road materials. It's a lot to maintain a town, okay, to do it properly. Next page.
Chris, do you want to approve this, that?
That's cemetery, going to the cemetery. Just the road to the cemetery.
Got it.
And then we want to widen all of the roads that are internal roads and mill them with black millings to know when people drive up to their loved ones, they're not on somebody else's. Okay? It's that simple there. Next one is,
I'm sorry, but this is what you're approved of, still go in and maintain that.
yes, we do that. Yes, ma'am, we do that. We maintain. Sometimes a combination of us and, like, we have to get somebody with a roller to roll. We don't own a roller, or we have to purchase a roller. Again, there we go, more money, you gotta purchase one. Some equipment you purchase, you don't use enough to keep it. So you either rent it or you have somebody come in and do it. Because it's gonna sit there a long time if you can't get to it. So you don't, some things you wanna have readily available as you want to use, some things you just not, it's not fiscally responsible to keep it there and constantly work on it to get it done. One thing I can tell you is we have to keep here that costs us money is our big giant storm pump with Thompson. We pay every year to have the maintenance taken care of because it's a specialty thing. They go into the pumps, they do everything. Yes, you spend money on it every year, but the one time you need it and it doesn't work in the middle of a storm and you flood somebody out when you could have prevented that, it pays for itself. That's kind of a double-edged sword is what I'm trying to say.
So we also bought those pumps in lieu of what it cost us more to rent them.
Yes, yeah, we bought the ones, we rented the ones through that time when FEMA paid for them. The next thing is just a quick thing on this is the gym station in the back, the garbage thing. That needs to be, we have a lot of money to be spent at the gym station to get it back up and around. Some would be done now, some would not be. We're not doing everything. Even if we were fully staffed with how many people, you can't do everything. Some things have to be done.
So this, when was the last time this was left?
What's that?
Gym station.
It is pretty bad. We had one guy who was on vacation and I had one guy. And it was me and him out there working and we got paid every day. So we are behind. I actually have such a 4 Bobcats, a big giant tractor, and a bush hog out there at the thing.
No, I'm talking about like this here. It's like the gyms didn't touch anything.
None of that's been done. I don't think that's in their contract either. That's between you and them, not me.
Yeah.
I'm just giving you something. There's a lot of maintenance there. The next you see, we have two storm areas that, the retention ponds, they're on Cloud and Jackson and Cloud and Summit. These things have not been touched since I promise you that. They need to be cleaned up. Some of this we can do, some of it need to be done by a company to go in there, remove the palm trees out of there. They don't need to be in a retention area. Number one, they create a lot of palm problems. When you see, we have a city, you see the palm trees that have them cut all the time. Major part of our debris is palm fronds. You know, we have a ton right now out there. You see that they've been cut, they become about every year and a half, depending on how fast they grow. It saves on manpower going out picking them up all the time in the roads. These don't need to be in that retention pond, they shouldn't be there, it should be an empty retention pond. So that needs to be taken care of there, and the fence really needs to be replaced there on that. This next picture is the same, the different ponds there.
With your equipment, you just purchased.
We do some of it, yes ma'am, but now we won't do the tree removals, but once it's done, we maintain as far as mowing, weeding, stuff like that, you know, to take care of it. No, the fence will be contracted out to get it done.
Does the retention ponds actually have to have the fence? I see. No.
And that's another thing with the city, I don't know that, I know some of them are and some of them are. That would be a question I'll find out for you. And if they don't have to be, but it's for safety for the kids being down in there. You know, that's the big
Usually
issue.
I could see that there was always water, but if there's not always water.
Yeah, I would find that out. Okay, the next page you'll see, this is actually Goodwin, Pennsylvania. There's actually a 6-foot fence there. Okay? You see the road edge down there? We would take care of the road edge, getting the stuff off the road edge. We cannot handle cleaning all that off now. That would take a company to clean it. And if we can have time to get to it, we would maintain it. Some things we can get to, some things we can't. We may come in on Monday morning, and I get a phone call 5 minutes from Aaron saying, such and such on Harlan called, they've got water coming up out of the ground. Well, guess what? Me and my 2 guys are headed down there. And we may be there like on Sherry Lane, we were just there. A simple little fitting, 50-cent fitting, cracked. There was no way to shut it off because the old system had no valves, and it ended up being a boil water nose, and that's there all day long, swimming up to here, trying to shut it down. And that you would have paid for if I was not here, because you did not have a licensed person on staff.
Can I ask you a question on this particular road?
Mhm.
It looks like there's more woods behind it, not housing or anything.
Actually, just one area, there's actually a lot of houses right there. On there.
Part of Goodwin and,
You have Mrs. Cherry right across the street, her son right there, her other son up on Goodwin, and right there you have, Mr.
and as you look into the back, you see a truck that has been sitting there for
Yeah.
recent
Almost like a
years.
planter.
The truck has been thrown
Looks like a planter.
over. Whoever left the truck there, I can't tell you who. If you come down Goodwin, at the end of Goodwin, there is there's a 5-foot fence there, and there's also a sign that actually tells you to go both ways. You cannot see that sign because it is cluttered by the debris. At one point, I had a gentleman who was on community service, Pablo, and I got him as community service to clear the entire road of grass in the cracks and crevices. It took him about a week to do it, and he did it every day. He did it 5 days a week. Now that was a community service, which he got community
South of
service.
Pennsylvania. That right there? That's Pennsylvania going down through.
Yeah, it's going
If
back.
you go further down, it's even worse because that's,
There was a small fenced area there in Goodwin, Pennsylvania.
yes, yes.
This looks bigger than that.
No, that's it.
That's the fence. The
That's
fence
the fence.
got overgrown.
Yeah, that's the road washed out that time. And you go on down to the valley there, you're off, I didn't take a picture of that, I didn't take a picture of that.
That's-
A million pictures for you either. That also has to be cut, everything. A boom mower goes in there and cuts that along in there too for the ditch.
And the other thing down by, on the right-hand side of the street is where Tammy John's house is. There is a waterway there that has never been maintained. It's a waterway that has never been maintained.
We've actually cut it a few times, that's a contract come out there, but not the way itself, but
And the
you're
way,
absolutely right.
and the design of it was to also to be in a storm, and the excess water that would come through there, the water would be able to flow. There is no way for this water to flow. It will back up, and it will not get to a place. Well, this road here collapsed. Where you see this line here,
Yeah.
the entire road collapsed because there was a faulty connecting point, and the connector of the water, instead of the water going through the pipe, it went underneath the pipe dropped. When the pipe dropped, the whole street fell in, and that was out of service for months. So that meant that if you lived down there, more than that, you could not go through this. So there's a number of places on the one that Rick Bassett did, the overpass of, what is that, on Ohio? That overpass that we did? Okay,
By Melissa Park?
by Melissa Park. No, not Melissa Park.
West of Melissa Park.
This was the street, this is where they had to actually, cut the road.
Yeah, that would be right there, yeah.
Right there, okay, that's right.
That one picture where you seen the sidewalk up on there, it's just before that, right?
Yeah, and that is still a waterway, so
Mhm.
how are we managing our waterways if we're not cutting the grass? And again, all this stuff only makes sense when you have a hurricane or a water event. Right now, we can overlook it. In my neighborhood, I can say this is happening in my neighborhood. So a lot of the things, because I do a lot of walking and jogging, that street there, I found that there was a crevice in the street that went from both sides of the street, and we had an engineer to come in and look at it and said, your street is going to break. It's going to collapse. So we had to, Rick Bassett, I think I remember, we did that budget, we had to do it over a series of a couple of years.
Actually, I can't remember the company that did it, but they cut it all out. I mean, we had to shut the road down. They They cut it all out, and they ended up finding out they got down, they put geomat down, and all kinds of stuff because of water. They didn't know if it was gonna hold it or not, and the road was gonna collapse again.
And to begin that process, we had to wait until we had the money.
Yes, yes,
We
absolutely.
had to stack up money in budgets, that a budget would come this year, we're gonna put this on this road project. We can't do the road project right now. So we add another stack onto it, and another stack. By the time we got the stacks, that's when we did the road. But what was a problem in the beginning became an even more of a problem by the time we started, and it knocked out again my neighborhood. We couldn't get through that road. So, I mean, things that you defer and you don't deal with because it's not in your visual, it does affect the community. Those of us that have to live.
I was on the wrong page before, yeah, I'm on the right page.
Oh, okay.
This is the area 2 years ago where the citizens group got together, and we cleaned out all that all the way down to the stream. And that's the slope going down, it has the big paper blocks
Yep.
going all the way down and underneath all that debris. But yeah, it's sad to see it get grown all back up like
And on the opposite side there, we also have a ditch coming through that needs to be cut too, if they don't want to cut it. The state, that all comes from I-4.
Yeah.
That all comes from I-4 down through there, back to the train shuttles. That all goes to Macy, all the way up to Candle Lakes to Deltona.
Usually the guy in the corner house on the other side, he usually takes care of that
Nate,
corner all the way.
Nate takes good care of except for the ditch where you can't go down in there.
Right, you
You
can't
have to
go
have a
down all the
machine
way
to cut it, to go down in there. So the next page you should see is a water meter box and a fence. Are we there? Okay. I had to go out there the other day because Aaron called and said they want to get a reading on the water meter. It was completely covered up, and it took me a while to figure out where it was, thinking of all the years, looking at it, figured out, probing, I finally remembered, oh, it's over by the fence. Normally, you'll see blue marks in the road, we'll paint them. Now, coming back to why we have other people, if you were to sub out that, why you have other people, this is going to come later on, but even when we have the water meters put in this time around, they go out there, number one, they've got to find them. We do have GPS coordinates, we're hoping they're going to work for them, they're going to give us GPS coordinates. But you still have to maintain these meter boxes. You still have to go out there and uncover them. You still have to mark them in the road. That is an ongoing process with 1,400 something meters out there, okay? I dug this up and found it. If not, I've been trying to figure it out where it's at. That's another job that has to be done, that would be in-house. You don't farm that out. That's another job that happens there. You turn to the next page. That is a valve box, believe it or not, on McKenzie. If you remember right, 2 months ago, we had a car go around and hit the fire hydrant for about the 7th time. We now have moved it 15 feet to the north and hope that they don't get it there. I could not, it was a 2 nights before 4th of July, I came out, laid down in the thing, couldn't get to it because the car was over the valve and shut off the water there. Went down to McKinney, I knew there was an inline valve there. Got there, found it, went to put my key wrench in it. Guess what? It's impacted with dirt and everything because you can't get to it. I dug for 45 minutes with a hand shovel in my hand, never made it to it. By that time, they got the car off, and then we spent another 30 minutes trying to get down, me laying in the water, and one of my guys getting a wrench down so we could find the valve and turn off the water. Okay? You're going to see him later on. I'm also show you that there's a back trailer in there. That is a piece of equipment that they use to sub up the ground right there if you have stuff. We have had the liberty of Sheila Hill loaning us hers and her men when we've had to have a problem somewhere. We had one over on Macy. The people bought the property. We've got to get down there and remove the standpipe. There was a whole bunch of phone lines and everything in there. We call before you dig, but if you start digging, you can't get in there. This machine, you pressure wash down with it, it cuts it, and the other part of the machine sucks it up like a vacuum. He then went right down to the valve, right down to everything right there for us in a matter of a few minutes. Okay? That right there would also work here. You would go into the meter box, one guy would shoot down, the other one would put the thing on top and suck it out so you can use that. That is an industry standard. They're all over. All cities have them to keep your valves clean. That's another reason why we have people. We have valve boxes out there. You cannot keep up with this, okay? You cannot. You can try. But when you don't have the people there, you really can't keep up with it. So we have valves out there that are still buried in the ground. What would be nice is to have people have that there. They go out, we call before you dig, we use our ground penetrating radar. We go out, we find the intersection, and we actually dig there with it to pothole it and see if we've got a valve there. Maybe we do and we get lucky. Also, if you're out by the water line, we had to do a major spot on Cravath. You can go out there instead of hand digging, trying to dig these 4 foot deep holes, a whole bunch of them like a gopher. You go just like this and you find the water line. If they hit that water line and you're off by 2 feet, you get 2 feet, 1 foot on each side. If they hit that water line and you marked it here and it was here, it's on you. You're paying for it. If they hit it and you marked it, it's on them. Okay? That's why I have that piece of equipment there later on. We're going to hopefully not cut out. And the utility fund. Okay, moving on. I'm about done here. I'm about done. This is the corner of Root Street and Macy. Rod and I went out the other day. We were going around, and I was showing some of the things that we've got to delete that 2-inch standpipe on Macy for the homeowner. It's in the middle of the driveway. Well, we got down there was no valve to turn off the standpipe. So now we have to figure out how to shut down the 6-inch line from Lake Helen to right there by your house, Roger, in that area. I know there's a couple of inline valves. I don't know anything. I've got to go try to explore. So I was showing him where they were.
Hydrant's visible usually.
It's not visible. We cut it open and I said, there's a fire hydrant here. Roger, no, there's not. I said, yeah, there is. And we found it. Okay, had the county gone through there with their boom mower, they would have hit it and they had a water line break and it would have been there. What I'm trying to get at is these are things that have to be done. Okay, we're in the process now of having the fire hydrants tested and flowed. We don't do that. We have a company doing it. They have to be done every year. But they're going to come back and report which ones are bad, what has to be done. You guys have agreed to do this project where we replace hydrants and stuff every so many year program. This is what we're trying to get there. Some of these things don't have valves to shut the hydrants off. Some of them, if you shut them off, they're not braced. And they just fall off when you get there. Now you've got a 6-inch water break. Just trying to highlight some of the stuff.
Some of them were installed before they had their requirement.
Absolutely.
Rust spots being.
Absolutely. I've done some there, and yeah, you're absolutely right. You have to be very careful when you dig them up. You don't dig behind them. You got to go down. You got to look. If you know, you got to brace them before you do this. Otherwise, you have a world of trouble. You got whole water nose. You got people out of water, and you're down in 60 psi water, 6-inch, trying to shut it off live. And I do it, and it's hard. Okay, that's the end of my presentation there on that. Yes, Charlie, there's some of the beauties right here on the back. The next few pages are some of the things that we do. Some of the things are not being done. I'm not going to tell you we're doing everything. We're not. We're not. But,
Are you saying
right.
we're not going to do it?
No, we can't. We don't have the people.
The manpower. Okay, well, that's what happens.
So this is just some, I can give you a mini novel because you guys think about it. Every time something comes up to do something, air conditioning, anything like that, it's my responsibility. Public Works take care of it. Maintenance, everything. You say Rick will take care of it. This is how we have to take care of these things. I'm going to bring more light, the air conditioners, I have them. I'm going to wait, we can't wait any longer. Obviously that one went out now, so we've got to bring that to you tomorrow night. But I can list and list and list the little things that you do. And the water's a big thing, The water is a big thing if you're going to keep your water system. But you also have your parks, your mowing, your edging, your weeding, road edge cleaning. I can go on. There's a whole list right here, okay? And then there's things that we can't get done that we haven't got done that we want to do. Valve exercising, opening the valves up, doing that. There's never something not to do here,
So
okay?
there's 2 guys going to get.
No, ma'am, it's not even, it's going to help. Right now, I feel like a guy out that you threw overboard with no arms and no legs and threw an animal out and said, here you go. I'm out there, I was here last night till 6 o'clock mowing this place to make sure it was good for tonight. Just because I have a pride, and I didn't want you coming here in 2-foot high grass. And my guys have pride that work for me, and that's what I instill. They go out, we see a sign on the side of the road, we try to straighten it. That's what I want them to do. If you see something, fix it. We have street signs that have always been over, got to be replaced. We get to them as fast as we can. I'm just saying, 2 guys will be a tremendous help. And if you were to farm out the thing, I'm not telling you it would be a great help, but it's not the magic bullet to fix this. The bullet is to go and work at it and get it back. And do your programs, and stay on your programs, and do that. And you can put that if you want your leisure. The very last thing I put back here, you can look at now or later on, I did a 5-year CIP plan, a beginning of a CIP plan like we used to do, okay, on my departments there, okay? It's just a rough thing, it's just to let you know of some of the needs that are gonna be needed in the future. We took out the dump truck this year to try to help the budget. That's what we gotta start cutting. It's $100,000. When I left, I budgeted $65,000 for the dump truck, nobody bought it. We're at $95,000 now. Okay? Our dump truck's a 1994. Last time I had Zook fix it, we couldn't get the parts, we had to manufacture some of them. It's obsolete. We're gonna try to keep it through this year, but when it goes, I'm gonna come to you and say, I have to have a dump truck.
We have a question. And I know we've been on over there, but now, we've got basically 2.5 employees.
Right.
Carl's wife.
Right.
We are gonna bring Carl back.
If,
during the,
what I plan to do with that one, and that's a full-time position, we can either fill it, or I plan on doing 2 part-time with no benefits to kind of alleviate some for now, to get 2 guys in here. One, because Carl only works, but helps us out in the winter time. He's an excellent worker. I wish I could have him here all the time. The amazing amount of work he does and I don't know, the enthusiasm of being out there, the man, them 2 get out there, they can mow and mow, and they can get stuff accomplished, you know, when you have a team, you're out there. I wish he could come here. We can't afford to pay him to come. That's not quite honest. But he does come here on his off time because he works during the summer, heavily doing the air conditioning stuff. In the winter, he's kind of there, so it kind of helps out. And every day he comes here in the winter, he's almost every day, and it helps. But in the summer, he can't be here. I would get somebody else part-time at a lower rate, just to mow and help out. Then you don't have any benefits there, so that would give us 4 full-time and actually 2 roughly part-time seasonal for now, to help alleviate some now. I'm not saying we're going to come back and we're going to need more down the road. You know as well as I do, as everything goes, the water department's going to be the biggest thing. You know, I'm not going to be able to get the hole forever to fix it. You got to train people, and I tell you that is not an off-the-road task that people can do. I was taught by a man, Mark Schleicher, how to do it. You have to be mechanically inept to do this, to work on water underneath and fix it. You have an antiquated system. You're going to do some repairs, hopefully, some new lines. You're not going to build, say, $8 million plus project, and that doesn't even touch this. You have pipe out there that's asbestos. You have pipe out there that's old blue pipe. Asbestos won't hurt you unless you breathe. Only we get hurt when we cut it. We have to cut it a certain way, and we have to do it when we do it with water and mass and everything. Okay? You have blue pipe out there. Same thing that happened out there on Lemon at the Globe Building. This property, this quarter line on the man's property, been there for years. He wants it off. We had a budget to go on there. It's in one of the things that you have to get it off of there. Okay, and help refeed the villas and all that. They had a valve that shut off and couldn't shut them off. That fire hydrant, that valve was here and over there, the fitting crack. You couldn't fix that night if you wanted to. Thank goodness there was a valve there. We found, and we shut it off, and it's going to be no longer viable. It's no good. We use mechanical joints now. That's all done by hand. It's all mechanical. It's hard to explain. Back in the older days, they used glue. Just like gluing on your pipe, they glued and put it together. Well, that 90 degree that you use that glue is this big in 90s. That 90 degree we have to do is a big giant mechanical fitting. So that 90 that took up this much space now takes up this much space. And how are you going to do that in the middle of pouring down water trying to get it there? So you have to put a valve and shut it down. A lot of times we go out there, I drop valves in line, and we shut them down, shut the water down, so we can repair it. It takes a very, very special person to be able to do that teaching. Okay? So you're going to pay more for that down the road, but for now, just having that people out there to help us do the basic rudimentary things to keep this town going. You know, that's where we're at. When I left to come back, you sold, not you, the city sold our backhoe. Okay, we had a mini, but we had nothing to pick up anything. That's why we bought a loader. You guys agreed, got a loader. Best thing, it's like, oh my gosh, we got something to pick up something with. We can go out in a rainstorm, it's got a windshield. I went out for years in the backhoe with no windshield, rain hitting me, trying to get to it to move a tree limb. We've got something now we can use to pick up something. We have a mini excavator, we go out and dig with it all the time, we just dig by hand. It saves time and money. We have a skid steer now, it goes out and does the roads, and we can do so much stuff with the equipment to do that. You know, you guys have sold in the auction our water pumps to pump the water down. You even stripped the water truck out. They stripped the water truck out, so we're never doing water again. The amount of money it would take to have to farm that part out is unbelievable. So,
I'm going to go back to what I had said, because we do have a lot of lines to go on. And Rick, fantastic packet that you put together, and I appreciate that. But we're getting into some of the little weeds and stuff with equipment. And
this was for later on, I just when they jump on that.
You're giving them an idea.
I'm actually going to last for later on, I'm out of the way.
But I would like to say, to recommend to the commission that we hold that, you know, that we hold the positions, let us do some comparison in between, and we've got time between now and next week. It's a recommendation.
Can we get back to the budget, just for my little part that I said I still had a couple of questions on the numbers. Of the FRS side, it looks as though well, a commissioner, I'm just gonna say one of them's me. The city's paying $1,062 for FRS. I'm not in FRS.
You are.
I'm not in FRS.
You are as a city commissioner?
I am, the city has to pay as we be.
I understand your saying.
Okay, I'm already drawing my picture.
We're paying for Ricky, and Ricky's not in FRS.
There's an agreement that Don and Del made.
And I'm not in FRS because I draw a pension from the city as well.
But we're required.
We're required to take that money, but it doesn't come to us.
No, they just.
Well, the city's paying, the city pays about $30 a week, and they pay about $657 a year, because you're on FRS too. So the city has to pay for the employees, but we're not paying into FRS or anything like that. So that $1,062 is inflated, correct?
No, that is the category that elected officials fall under. There is an exact percentage that says what that has to be for elected officials. And so that dollar is based on the salary. That's the FRS for
And where does that money go?
to the state.
It goes to the state, even though we're not elected.
I think what she means is that everybody has the same figure to as much we pay percentage of. When her not being in FRS and him not being, we only pay half that percent. Like Ricky as well, we only pay half that percent. So my says it's 13, we only pay 6% for Ricky.
And so that half percent would not be the 1,062, it would be half percent. So like if we pay 30, every city has to pay for every employee, or every company has to pay for every employee. They'll get their money somehow to help give us our pension. So I really think that number's inflated.
Then on yours, then that would be about $500 savings, and on the mayor, that would be about 600 savings. So that would be $900. And Ricky is already factored in his on the payroll side.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on.
No, I get mine for my contract, agreement, mine at the half, whatever FRS doesn't take, does it, 457.
Yeah, and that was for his agreement, yes, from coming back to this contract.
Because you can't go that long.
Did you say contract?
Well, it's an employment agreement.
Do you want to go to line item?
Well, I know that I was talking about
something that we need to look at in order to make sure we're making the best decision possible. But definitely think that there's a need for having more help. And then I take back your comments about special events, obviously, like that, so.
One question I have, see my age. I had a question, I'll come back.
So I get,
My statements on the payroll was just a question of why we're not using the 15% starting hourly rate, always going up so high. But I didn't say remove it from the budget, keep the positions in the budget. Because I know if we need a position, or we need something in there to take up some of the workload off of public works so that they can get other things done. But if you talk about wanting to call that 3%, I was looking at 2%.
That's not,
I was gonna circle back on that as well. I think it's needed to be reduced. We talked about getting the ladies in the office up to market value, that I still find value in that. And, our employees are our most valuable assets here, so I don't want to completely say, well, let's put a kibosh on any type of increase, because let's be real, that everything has increased in the world. So we do need to at least examine that. But
The food started coming down, but the makeup for it was going up.
I think the current rate is running around 3.79.
I'd also like to put into, talking back, that what we're right now discussing is to try to catch up and to keep up. But in doing so, we're not projecting beyond our capacity to grow with either right now we're talking about assisted living facility. Okay, in order for that to get done, that's going to be another expense in terms of manpower. If they're talking about putting affordable housing on the other side of the highway, again, our permit and our office staff and the computer systems that they have, we're going to have to expand in order to be able to grow. So we can try to keep everything like laser where they are, but somewhere along the line, we got to be able to look beyond our residents and property taxes for revenue streams. We don't have the ability to increase our revenue through commercial, so we're basically trying to keep the grass mowed, but we're not trying to bring in, we don't have the capacity to bring in resource creating entities. And that's never in a conversation. I've been through a lot of these budgets here in the city of Lake County. I mean, we're always trying to, one of the things that's almost like a red flag is that whatever the millage is, that's going to be the issue. But the issues are more, as we're seeing now, than just millage as to how we're able to maintain our city. And we have to do something different. We have to look differently at what we're doing. Keeping the numbers down, fine. Keeping our staff down, that's not fine. So while we're sitting here, while we're discussing these things, I think we just, in the corner of your mind, think about, well, what's going to happen in 5 years from now? Ricky's got a city ID for 5 years in terms of things. How are we looking to grow the city with revenue? Maybe not looking to grow and have a bunch of different, what do you call it, senses to be brought to there. But everything we're doing, cutting grass, cutting leaves, cutting trees, and now we're also talking about we have an abundance of the 100-year storms that used to be 100 years, that are coming every 50, 60 years. Everything that we're doing is trying to play catch up in an environment that is not really being friendly to us. So, I'm just, hopefully that we will look beyond where we are right now and not get bogged fight about the numbers all day long, but the city still needs to be able to have the manpower, the resources in terms of the equipment. I mean, one piece of equipment could take the place of 3 or 4 men if we want to spend the money for it, but the money seems to be too big that we need 3 or 4 men.
And Mayor, on that point, you know, we can't budget on money that may come in 5 years.
Exactly.
But along that line of what you're saying, I took $60,000 figure for Summit in Maine. I think that was the number I heard them talk in meetings, what their investment would be. At this current millage rate, that would generate $445,200. But that also means there could be some additional costs that we have to go in there. So even on a big project, that looks like a significant number, but then there's some cost factors in there. And yes, as that goes through and the auto mall project revitalize itself, not as the auto mall, I just use the term because that's how they identify the property. So there are 2 potential big items, but even at the last night meeting, Tim Loud said, we're probably looking at 3 to 5 years before even dirt's turned. So that's getting the full value on the books, which could even be further out. So, I mean, right now, we are a residential community and dependent upon, and we don't have that diversity. We've got some options that will come in that at some point will provide some relief in terms of this. So we are looking at what that potential future impact could be.
Unless we change some of our land use things, we will always be a residential community.
Okay.
That's what growth is. Change.
Now, I've heard 3, I've heard 2, you proposed 4. Can you give me a consensus, and then at some point Zach will be able to say what actually that is and say,
Well, I was just I can give just kind of rough numbers to help the discussion. So kind of the 2 items, the COLA for general employees and the commission. For the general employees, each percentage COLA equates to about $5,000. So going up 3, say about 5, 2 would be 10. And the commission going to 0 from where it currently is presented would be about $2,000. If it were 20% and 0, that's how it goes out to about $7,000.
what's the savings between the 4 and the 3?
$5,000 per percent change in that COLA.
Red line, city employees at what we currently got since it was contracts, I guess. It's gonna take everything, charter, the red line goes.
I don't think all of them have contracts. Yours is a contract that is based on payroll. So, yeah, so his would be based on the other employees' calls. Not all the directors are separated on employment agreements.
Yeah, but these are.
I call them contract, but that's an employment agreement, just another thing for a contract.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about all these employees.
Yeah.
How many employees have employee contract or whatever you want?
He's an exempt employee.
4
Four
exempt.
Yeah.
For exempt, 3 contracts.
Only 1.
Employment agreement.
Mine's just an agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, there's dollars, but that's 5,000. All right. If you want to go to,
We could always do like we've done in the past, and the commission not taking them.
What was that?
That's like we've done a couple times in the past, and the commission not taking them.
I remember when I first started in 08, the first thing that we had to do was take a cut in pay that the commission voted on. I was on that vote. So we have responsibility.
is there a consensus? I've heard 3, I've heard 2.
Well, I have 3 in one talk. Again,
next commission is on.
The only thing I say to that is, these are the same people who shop at the same Publix and the same Dixie's. And the inflation that hits outside of this office, hits those people no different than anybody else. So it's almost like we're punishing them for being a government worker.
No, not really. I mean, our social security,
But you got a dime 2 years ago.
I never got a
You got to get, it was a 9-1.
That was a big jump.
It was a bump they gave.
Obviously, they didn't.
But then then on some of the employees, they found out they sent them the wrong amount, they wanted their money back.
Then they must tax money. They always want to tax my social security. But it's not to punish them in any way. I think their salaries are salaries.
I'm going to say this. Take away my 6%, that's $7,500, and you give it to those employees. Because they are important to me to get the job done.
And Rick, even though he's an exempt employee, he's a hard worker. He works just as hard as his crew does. And that's why his crew works so hard, because they see him working.
And that's why he needs more employees.
And so, now his cost is called per cost, that's what we're doing.
I mean, to do that, we renegotiate the contract, but I'm willing to give that up if that money can go to those employees. The non-exempt that you're saying, not
I'm not
exempt.
saying non-exempt. I say you give them a COLA. You're not eliminating them. I'm saying the exempt employees.
Right, and I'm saying I will give mine to the exempt employees.
When you said non.
I'm sorry.
I even make that mistake once in a while.
Well, but there is a difference, so, that's not what I said. It's up for discussion, that's all I can say. I'm only one vote. It's not a hurt them in any way, it's to help the other ones, at least bring their salaries up, help the city, hopefully help Ricky get more, employees. And these employees, I told Teresa Mack that I wanted to make sure that we got 2 employees this year on my board, so I'm not trying in any way to hurt or harm anybody. Just trying to be fair across the board.
What we can do when we get the line items then is total up so you can see collectively how much you say and what impact that would have on the millage rate.
I'm sorry.
Then we can take those different changes and when we get over to the line items and we can do those adjustments, exactly, give us the total of 2,000 here and 5,000 there. But, and I'm being realistic here, you know, if we're looking for $174,000 to get 6.5, we're pennies.
Just quick added perspective, just kind of whenever there's some discussion to throw to quantify it for y'all. The COLAs on the 3 department heads exempt is about a little over $10,000, all in about $13,000 in that, just in terms of, are we moving the dial or whatnot. So just again, whatever there's something I can kind of quantify as we discuss it, just throw that out there.
Is that a little bit of a dozen, like,
Yeah, so that's another 10-ish is the pay, about 13 all in.
I hope we look at this as that what we're doing sitting around this table is that this is Team Lake Helen. This is not a me, this is not a he, it's a Team Lake Helen. There are some team players that are at the table that are giving their all. And not to be asking for a parade, but I think as our commission, we need to, this is not a competition between us. The only competition should be between all that we do here that helps all of our city. There's no one person here that needs to have a flag over their head because I did this, I did that. There is no in team. I mean, this is what we are. And this is what I've been looking at in terms of from my perspective as being the mayor. Happens to be I'm now the quarterback as the mayor. That's what the team requires. When I was a city commissioner, I was on the bench. I was part of the team. Each one of you can be a team leader, or we can all look at this as a team for the city, for the betterment of the city. And it doesn't really, I don't care how you slice it, whatever we cut here, whatever we do here that promotes the city, we as a city benefit. You know, I can't make this even more. Sometimes bewilders me to see some of the divisiveness that happens outside of these walls. But when we're here as a team. And that's where I think we can all shine as a team. One person can't shine if we all do this that works for the city. There's no election coming up this year. One of the things that I've seen with budgets is sometimes they can influence whoever the person is and make you up for re-election, and maybe they want to make a point or whatever. We're in a really unique situation here. We don't have an election after this. What we all do, and I think I'll speak for myself, should be able to vote our conscience, not based on what Ricky's getting or whatever. We have the ability right now without a team, without an election. Next year is going to be a different story. There's going to be 3 seats open, and the mayor and 2 other commissioners. So next year we'll deal with that. But right now, we are not going to be making any progress unless we can come to some consensus that will give some, take some. Nobody's going to get it all. Rick has poured out more than I'm sure. I mean, just the idea that we have a city administrator said that you take my raise and give it to your employees, that's a team leader.
Well, last year, Mayor, I was going to give my money to Nan, who was the admin.
Well,
The admin.
I respect that.
Leader for that.
But I do also say that everybody was here on this commission before anyone was here when we took over. When I got on the commission in 2008, the bottom of the economy had fallen. And when we're sitting at a budget like that, the commission decided to take a pay cut. So we did that because that was what was necessary. So again, so right now we're at a place now that we can.
That's our job as managing.
Well, if we can get back to the consensus part of it. I'm willing to go with looking at what the 3% COLA would be like and dropping the commission COLA to 0.
I agree with that. And leave the exempt employees the same as they are. I'm not in favor of lining them.
So this is a workshop, this would be something that we would bring up in our budget.
No, you can get consensus here, and I mean, go back, work on these numbers.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah, then you will vote on that final.
Mayor Burton,
Yes, ma'am.
may I ask a question? We here are part of the team.
Uh,
All of us citizens that are here
Yes, well, I understand
tonight are
that,
part of the
Maybe
team.
I
Are we
understand
going
that.
to be able to speak?
Yes, as we normally have it on the, you have a blue card?
I just don't want out yet. I didn't know we had.
No, yeah, well,
This
that's
is more of
how.
an open discussion, I thought.
It's on the list after we get the talking about the budget.
Technically, under a work session, they don't have to take public comment because they're not making votes.
We're
This
funding,
commission is always taking them.
we're funding the budget.
No, they're not voting on the budget.
We're funding the budget.
But I'm telling you, under state law, a workshop does not require public input.
So historically, we've
And
participated.
let's keep
Okay.
moving on, so we have a consensus on, you have a memo on that, Jack?
So the consensus that I have currently is 3% general employees, COLA, commission to 0%. We will update for the 2 where FRS is at 50%. Total of those three is approximately $8,000.
Then we should start thinking of some of these bigger chunks.
Yeah. And that might be easier than if we went to 29, where we got kind of, your budget's in here twice. But Zach went and put it in a format similar to the variance report that you've seen. So, yeah, so you look at 29, and I think it makes it a little easier to flow exactly like that.
Well, the first thing on this page that I would like to see is the donation line, zero bound.
Could we start executive?
It's on the executive second, or that's in the legislative.
Legislative, yeah.
What page is it?
Page 9. And so we've already reduced 2,000 from there, plus the FICA and what have you. So that could give us a running total. So I mean, okay, so we know we had that there. Is there any other line item? Because you know, retirement will adjust, FICA will adjust. Travel per diem, I kept the same. I had increased it in the original proposal, so that if 5 people wanted to attend, like the Florida League of Cities, that was there. This will probably fund about the League of Cities. So that you all can make a decision that nobody goes to a meeting.
What is the actual that we spent in 2024 so far? Or 2023, if we have that?
I got, oh, I got the current one that we're gonna do on that. Yeah, that's right, yeah. We have remaining 4,933, but we have the mayor and the vice mayor going to Hollywood next Wednesday, based on the hotel, convention registration, and what have you. We're probably going to spend about 3,800 to 4,000.
Okay, so this is still
Yeah.
realistic.
So I flattened it back to your original. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should just take that out as well. Right.
Because we discussed about that being.
We did, but we didn't set a formal, so I didn't want to make a preemption. Okay.
Yeah, we talked about, the public donating in, if they wanted to donate, they could donate into that, and that's the funds we use.
So reducing the 8, removing the 8 to 0.
And can you tell us a little more about dues and subscriptions?
Dues and subscriptions, we pay Florida League of Cities, the Volusia League of Cities. So these are those organizations that we're a member of. Yeah, TPO and all of that, yeah. So I mean, I think those are valuable for networking.
Yeah, I assumed,
Yeah, no.
What are the other current charges?
That's what I'm gonna ask Karen.
For legislative,
Yeah.
for Farmer, was a dinner, the Volusia League dinner that we had at,
That'd be fine.
that was a big chunk of it, mostly.
And that also covers our Volusia Lake City meetings.
Dinners and stuff like that, yeah.
Is any of that refunded for us?
Yeah.
The,
Portion of the big dinner plus, but we still have costs involved in that. And if you saw, if you go to the bottom, the proposed 2025 was already reduced from 84,500 to 8,000. Before we just did the 2,000 and the 8,000. All right. Now we'll go to executive. And
Is the attorney the only one waiting for
yeah. And no, legal is its own line item. That's why you have other professional services in other areas. And again, I will tell you, professional services is, in this business, it's the swag. It's a scientific, well, ask us. But when we look at what we've done with Scott up to this point, based on the trend through June, we're about 50,000 with 2 months, or, well, it'll be 3 months because we'll have July and whatever in there. You know, I look back previous, I put a $75,000 number in there. The reality is it will come down to what cases and whatever that come up. But I mean, but in trying to find somewhere at least where there appeared to be a little bit of room that we could do. But again, it is an educated guess, and so that could go there. But I did reduce 25 from that.
Big serve and all the other ones that we got to take out on a different line.
On capital, yeah, yeah. So down to administration. Kind of don't have a whole lot of control through the all the payroll stuff. So we have our accounting and auditing. That's the Contracts Act with McDermott. Yep. Accounting financial management. That's the portion of your contract that's in the general fund.
You have Big Sur Technologies, and at the end of that letter, it says, that starting December 1st, 2024, our cloud hosting services will increase by 5%. Where is that? What is that about?
I think that'll be under general government. So right now we're on administration. So what we did there, accounting, auditing, in terms of there, we had 2 software programs last year. We've eliminated the Clarion, so that was a $10,000 savings. Tyler Software is 15 in the general fund, and then we have another balance in the utility fund, because there's a portion of that that gets covered out of that, because that's the new meters being programmed into the Tyler system. So you'll see Tyler again when we get down into Rick's water department. But we did eliminate paying 2 finance companies. Bank fees are what they are. I'm going to pause a second there at bank fees and pivot to something that I had Aaron do some work for me. We as a city are eating about $20,000 a year of credit card fees. And I'll give you an example. You buy a tag from Volusia County, they charge you a convenience fee if you use a credit card. We are absorbing all of those fees. I did a review of Lake County. Daytona Beach absorbs the fees. The Berry charges are 2.75% convenience fee. So you pay your bill and you get charged 2.75 for using your credit card. The land absorbs it. Edgewater, 3.25. Holly Hill, 3%. New Suburban Beach, 3%. Oak Hill, 3%. Orange City, 2.29. Ormond absorbs it. Pond Sidlet builds it into their rate. So they're collecting it, but it's not being charged as an added fee. South Daytona absorbs the fee. Volusia County charges a 2.60. The biggest hit we're getting is that more and more developers are paying by credit card. So if their permit is $5,000 and we're using the credit card, we're not getting $5,000. We're getting $5,000 less the credit card fee in terms of their. So and again, this is not something, there's going to be a consensus on there. And right now, Aaron has a credit card here at City Hall, but we don't use it. Meaning for someone coming in to pay their utility bill, they pay online, again, because they're looking at the fee structure. But we want to make it as easy as possible for people to pay every way they can. So I'd like the commission at least be open to the idea that we look and we do what almost every other government is doing, and that is, and I'll give you just a quick example, and this is just an odd thing. I had lunch at Sinatra's, and they brought me 2 bills. They had my cash bill, and then if I wanted to use my debit card, there's a 3% fee, $1.70. So this is happening in the private sector across the board. And we, for our small size, when you compare us to the others, the bigger cities absorbing that, but all of the other cities that you might say population-wise are above us and below are charging that convenience fee. That is almost standard. You know, I live in Orange County, and if I pay my taxes, I pay a convenience fee, and I use American Express because I want points. Okay, so separate from that aspect. I mean, our tags and what have you. So I'd like you to be open to the fact of us at least being able to explore with companies in the sense of do that. That would also make it a convenience for people walking in with their credit card and then told, we don't take the credit card here.
I see no reason why we don't look into getting recovery on the cost of what they're billing on these credit cards. Even if that's built into the fee or if it's based on a percentage. I know we looked at the apparently, and we looked at possibly going to some common one that everybody uses. Square.
Yeah.
We looked at Square. Well,
It's a 4 something.
I think it was 3.6 or something like that. We were looking at doing that, but then we had to charge people that extra percentage and everything. It was inconvenient.
No, there is that debate, but give an example. The person who walks in and pays their water bill of $100 and writes a check, we get $100. You pay the same water bill with a credit card, we don't get $100. So it actually has an impact on your revenue within an enterprise.
Well, that makes sense.
Okay. But you don't, no, because there are different ways that they're there. And I've had one company contact me that was optioning everything from Venmo to Zelle, and I mean, options that we don't have right now. You know, in reference, there are a lot of people who do all their banking, you know, by their phone and through those apps. And, you know, and yes, there's a fee that's associated with that. But again, right now, this year, it's about 20,000, but it's growing. And so it doesn't necessarily cut a millage rate, but it's $20,000 of lost revenue that we could recover.
So the 20,000 is actually what we could be charging as a fee?
Yes, we're paying it out with a credit card
It
company.
comes out of our $100 that's paid by first of the credit card.
Yeah, so the credit card fee is $3.75, we're paying $100 minus that. Credit card gets theirs, and so Heather's math is better than mine and quicker than mine, but I was just saying, let's say they get $93 instead of $100. I know that's not
Just keeping with what I was saying, that when we begin to grow, and we have more bigger companies coming in and they're using those credit cards, would it not be smarter to get it sort of in line now, where it's a little bit here, a little bit there, than when they start coming up with these $10,000 credit card bills?
And what I can tell you, while some does come in on the water, the bulk of the increase right now is happening because more and more developers are paying by credit card.
Developers.
And their bill is bigger, so that means the fee we're paying.
Could we make a fee for the developers then?
Well, it would be the same fee as anyone on that, so they would pay that
Would be a
3 or the 3.5 or whatever. I don't think we can charge it anymore because then you might get into Scott's not here, but illegal. Then you gotta charge everybody the same, if you start treating the group. So how would we justify charging someone more?
It's like you charge one person that's doing something a certain way and then not charge another person that's doing it the same way.
And like I said, I want to get us back to the line item, but since we were there at the bank fees and we paid those, I thought it was the perfect time just to segue into the credit card fees because they're part of that.
On one person agrees that you should look into it.
All right. So,
Okay. All right. We will look at that and see what we can bring back, but when there's enough companies, you know, that could be able to.
Yeah, that's pretty standard, especially if you pay things online. I think Bush County, we paid approximately charge you a fee. So, yeah.
If you want to pay your license, they'll charge you.
Yeah,
to use your car.
for your tax, all that, yeah, exactly, so, standard practice.
All right, remember, when we go to the lunch counter at the convention, they want to take cash.
Yeah, right.
You know, we thought at one time in our society, cash would be gone, but, I mean, just the fact of that aspect, you're right, you're hitting some areas where they only take cash. I mean,
A lot of places are not taking cash also. They're not
Yeah.
cash choices. Yeah.
So, no, it's a mix, but it gives the customer a choice.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, I've got that consensus. Other general government? Down here.
So that's how we reviewed our rent and leases for
Pardon?
have we reviewed our leases and rents? In other words, is it the same for as long as you remember, or is it?
Yeah, we'll look at those, but sometimes, like when you do a copier, you may have a 3-year lease on your 4 years. So I mean, so those are kind of set, and then when they'll notify us when the lease comes up, and then sometimes that's where an increase may come.
And I think the fee schedule for those buildings was just reviewed or updated more recently, since I've been outside of the last 3 years. Well, it's not like a 20-year thing. I mean, you can still look at it.
And on there going down, under historical consultant, that was budgeted 60 last year, based on the trend or wherever we're going, it won't hit 30. So I make that adjustment, that's when the gentleman that advises, the PLDR, no, the historic.
Bob.
Yeah, Bobby. Okay. Engineering services, we bumped, but keep in mind, some of the engineering services that we have are done on the benefit of the developer. And so there's a portion of that 80,000 that we're getting back on the revenue side when we bill them. And then you all, if you remember, you passed that new ordinance that allows us to take anywhere from $10,000 to $5,000 deposit up front based on their project. So we now pull out of there, when it gets to a certain amount, they repay us. But I still have to budget for this expense, and it gets balanced out at the end of the year when the revenue offsets against that line item. Planning services, we're using LPG, as our primary planner now. But again, a good significant portion of those fees are passed on to the developer. The only time it's not is when the city initiates a comp plan or we need change or whatever there. Any work that is done for Summit in Maine, a house, a lot subdivision, a variance, a rezoning, those costs are being passed on to the applicant as part of that process. Yeah, help me on that one, Aaron.
The federal government.
General government, yeah.
For our dues, it's like our Dropbox fees, Adobe Prime.
Web,
Huh?
the web page?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so they're not the Volusias and the Florida and whatever, but then there are fees for, because it's like maybe $3,000 a year for web hosting, and then what we pay for Adobe licensing and like that's where those come in.
How come there's nothing encouraging debris cleanup?
Remember I told you at the last meeting, we held 75 and we took that out. And the reason being, yes, we're taking the risk, but we do have $350,000 that is set in that investment fund. So the idea was that you had the 350, you budgeted 75, if it didn't get used, it would accumulate. When it hit 300,000, anything above that would go to capital. So this year, we're saying then, if we're trying to hold the millage rate, we'll take that out. We know we're okay, that means we can access the 350, that's why I removed that, or recommend removing that.
One thing else I'd like to say on building maintenance. The problem, we don't have one dime in this budget for city hall. You have a thing on that?
Yes,
Okay.
we had bid openings today.
So I was just wondering where's that money gonna come from?
Well, comfort this budget. It may be a special referendum, and citizens decide what they want. Just the preliminary numbers today, we had 3 bidders. The highest was $1,804,686, $1,206,261.87, and $883,543.68. And I think we determined that didn't include windows.
What's the bidding on?
The fixing this building.
Oh,
The roll upstairs and whatever. Yeah. No, so I think Linda, that's what you were saying, right? We didn't.
We don't have the window.
No, other than the building maintenance money, that takes care of there. So I mean, we got this today. I mean, we would have never been able to put this in as a budget item. I mean, this is something that would have to look at. Lynn, this would be the kind of thing that we could work with Cory Mills. I mean, we got firm numbers, but we would still have to put some skin in the game. But I was just answering Charlene's question. We don't have anything in there, but we do know at least some ballpark that we got a big ticket.
That's because the original bid that went out was just for the wall removal, and it didn't include re-putting everything back.
Tearing things out and rebuilds, you know, and what Rick said, it was almost like gutting it and rebuilding. So I don't want to get hung up.
Well, yeah.
But we know that's there, and that may be a decision that we have to look at and say, you know, if this was a couple of years ago, I'd say borrow the money if you could have gotten a 2.75% rate. Today,
I'm looking at CAC building now.
I know, but that doesn't mean that there's potential for federal money, whether, you know, and state money. Mr. I can get the name back, what, Barnaby Webster or whatever. You know, he had put in a request for us previous, and it got vetoed because we had no skin in the game. Well, if we're able to go back to both the state and the Fed on something like this, and then we're saying we're putting in $500,000, we may get looked at by the governor, and definitely at least the Congress room was open. And I think, Lynn, you were at that meeting. At that time, I just threw out $1 million figure, and he didn't blink.
And then he threw out 400,000, and he was shocked that he didn't give $1 million.
Well, because he said he was doing 20 or 30 million for something down the road. Yes.
So
Yeah.
I think that we could go for more, like that 76, like the 800,000,
And these haven't been compared yet, so that's where, you know, we could get at. So yeah, we could say go with the low, but if the low doesn't cover everything that it needs to be done. But the point is, at least we're getting closer to the fact where if we get this iron down, we've got time to get with him in the next, you know, after the election, the next budget cycle for Congress.
I was gonna say, you get their air conditioners fixed now.
Because we're gonna be here for the rest of our lives.
Okay. So that, I mean, you guys, you know, is that down? Is that after? Animal control is chief, is that what we paid the Halifax?
That's what the DNR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of there, and that trend is running within there, so that's why I didn't really increase in terms of that. We did add travel and per diem for 2,500 in the general government. Aaron and Debbie have not been to training, and there are some opportunities to maybe send them, you know, to Debbie in terms of some planning and permitting, and Aaron, you know, in the sense of especially with the new water meters and Tyler and whatever coming in. I mean, there just may be some aspects in terms of this. So I at least wanted to have something in there if we have the opportunity to send them.
About training, sending anybody to the training at DECC.
I have that on the agenda tomorrow.
Yeah, and I'm going to tie that into, as I told you guys, I mean, I talked about an item, but it'll be on the agenda tomorrow in reference to where we may have another way around that. Okay, with one of the contractors. Okay. Communications, what we did is consolidated, and that is internet, that is cell phones. I mean, you know, radio, so it's every level of communication, you know, that was in there. You can see, you know, it was budgeted at 7,000 and we spent 33,951. So that's just the reality of communication. And again, these are kinds of those things of the cost of keeping the lights on, running, you know, that aspect. So it's not just cell phones, but overall communication.
We are actually on government rates. Most everything we do, our cell phones, everything are all on government.
Government.
We have feedback like off the state of Florida and everything and all that stuff already. We piggyback, yeah, we piggyback on all that now.
That's all internet and things are on somehow.
Yeah, I know the cell phone stuff like that's all done on state contract.
I don't know about this, sir, that's our IT, so, I don't know where. Spectrum, we have for all that.
And you'll see in every one, the hour went up because they went up based on what we're spending this year. So we were under budgeted last year. So when again, so it's inflation items that hit us and we weren't budgeted for. Insurance, that's our, is that the medical or the property? Property and whatever, but that's MIT. And we're estimating, we haven't got that final number, but we're estimating, you know, at 106,000. That covers our coverage, which pays them for attorneys to defend us on lawsuits.
We have
That has an attorney assigned, and that case is, well, the league told us they didn't, but there's a definition of whether or not that if we're generically talking about a case, it may not fall under that category. So as of right now, we have a lawyer assigned on Orlando that is now handling that case in reference to the one that I told you that we were served on.
Back, communications. I have a cell phone that is just for the city, as well as my personal cell phone. I pay that bill. Is that something I should be thinking about?
If you have a city cell phone assigned by the city, we should be paying that bill.
No, I have a separate phone that is just for the city.
Yes, well, we designated to use for city.
Designated cell phone.
It's on due to commission.
Does any commissioner have a phone?
No, we pay our.
I got my own personal phone. If he's got a
No,
cell
so
phone, he should.
I don't mean to be rude, but you chose then to separate it from your personal.
Well, actually, I had two phones, so I decided to use this phone because it was started. This is all city phones. Phone calls, emails, I'm here. This is my personal number. And I really did that because if in the event that we have to have, our phones have to be turned in for something, or we have to have, what they call a records request, this phone, I can hand it over today. And it would be nothing that I have to now separate my personal business from the phone business. And as the mayor, that is some of the things that I find it's useful to have a separate phone business. I just bring it up as something in the future. If we have a mayor that would, or even a commission, I don't know, it's up to you. That's just my 2 cents.
Turn your page over, we've got other government capital buildings, and I think once we get through Zach will be able to at least give a summary of what are the capital items and what they total, and maybe what a one-time recommendation might do with ARRP, which if the capital were able, if these are like one-time purchases, that if we use AARP money, that would also reduce that 174 that we're looking for. But we can address that when we get down to the capital list. Right? Page 31 at the top. And if you can see there, the 2024 budget was $424,500. We have it $399,000. So it has been reduced. Parks and Rec, that 60,000 position, right now, we put a holding spot at 12,000. It was a tweak I had to do from the previous, when Zach got back. We were short difference, and I just said, let's take it from there. The commission will make the decision what to do in terms of that, but I used that to balance what the difference was between, I think it was 18 and
Yeah, you're 6,000.
6,000.
The reason I want to keep bringing that up is this has to do with it.
Yeah, yeah.
With that money and our filing system being as it is upstairs, basically is probably following state statutes, we can't find anything a lot of times. Why couldn't we take a portion of that, hire someone, a student who says in a letter part-time, and use those monies temporarily, the benefits, to come in and work?
We could look at that.
I keep bringing it up.
No, you do, and actually, we got a price of the company. I just didn't put it in here for this time because it was $85,000. For them to come in and take all of those records and turn them to digital electronic. I mean, and that's what they do. They do them in other governments and other communities. And they've got the scanners, the equipment, and whatever they do that. And so I kind of put that on the 25, 26 capital.
But you could also use that in ways to, see a filler, you know, if one of the girls are out in the office or Lynn's out, they create a photo. Instead of not giving any service, at least because someone
It-
30 hours.
It's going to be a massive job, and maybe finding a way that's sufficient to do that. That's a good idea.
Up in that office, up in that space up there, there are tons and tons of paperwork that has exceeded the time frame which we're required to keep them, which is 10 years. There's no separation between what's been gotten, we got rid of or digitized. I think digitizing them would be allowing us to put everything in a system that we could access. As part of what I've seen by being in there is that there are a number of things that have either been discussed at the city commission meeting in 2007 and maybe even ruled on or voted on, but there's no continuity as to someone that you actually have to go up in there and look at a lot of that stuff. I don't know if there is a way that, I'm sure that there is a way that if you hit a computer, keyboard, you can bring up something that you would have to not have to spend hours looking for something that you may not find.
And the one benefit, again, all we did was just got a price from one company. If we go that direction, there'd be an RFP and whatever it is, they would know state statute, because that's what they do in the set. So there'd be no guesswork. Maybe hiring an intern, it would almost have to be trying to educate in the sense of, well, because we've got stuff that can be destroyed, or we don't have to keep, but it's just nobody's had time to go up and do that. So, I mean, in the sense of contracting that to an entity, it could get done efficiently in the longer term, but we can look at those other options just to see what
How
it
do you
is.
use the
I did that for 4 months ago in the fire department for my sick leave time. During the recovery time, rather than you had an option of either using up your sick time or coming into work from day shift. So my job was scanning all the billing inspection records into the computer.
But if we digitize, we can put everything in and go and get it.
Once you do it, then you go digitize forward. I mean, meaning so that, it's one of those things catching up.
You know, they had a computer, copier programs to the computer.
Yes.
So you punched up which file was scanned, you started scanning the documents, and it goes into that file.
And how it's done is almost like Unicode then, so you're able to type in something and then find it out, so, in the sense of how that's done, but.
And just the last time on that, a lot of that stuff is held in file cabinets, and they're in the center of the room, and I don't know what the weight bearing load is, or whatever, because somebody had brought that up. There's a lot of weight floor. So again, that's another consideration that we would be able to eliminate not only the weight, the bulk, stuff that is up there, and if it can be retained, that's fine. Let's keep it safe.
Now, a couple of these items I may refer to Rick, because, you know, there's special events and things that fall in Parks and Rec, but then there are actual Rick things, like contracted services, we kept at 20,000, but we have spent 27,523, and that was part of some of the catch-up, Rick?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that kind of aligns with, trying to do, well, I actually did one on the other sheet, didn't really have this one, so I'm trying to, on the contracted services. Some of that we had, it's right here. Get in there, please. We did have down the tennis courts and the pickleball, the gutters and stuff. We kind of left the gutters in there a little bit, but you have a lot of ball things that come through there that have to be replaced. If the gutter does go down one of the buildings, we contract that out.
We pushed some of that off.
We pushed all that, so this is just enough to carry some of it that we have, replacing, some swings kind of goes in with that, down below other things here. I do know that with the new playgrounds, I've contacted Mr. Benda, who did the Wilson Park playground. We really need a professional come in there once a year to certify those to be right. So in case anything happens to anybody, you've had it certified. He said it's about $1,800 to do the certification on. I think it's both of them. I'm not 100% sure, so we're gonna pay that, have that done. If you wish not to do that, if something happens, we can look at it, we can maintain it, but we're not certified to say it's okay. So there's cost in that.
And again, power went up based on what our costs are. Water went down. Now maybe if we find out our meters are wrong and everybody, our bill may get hit too, but okay.
Is there any thought given to solar? Just a solar. Solar. My electric bill went from $250 down to $35.
I know, Mayor, and I'm going to say this in the nicest way I can. There's a lot of ideas that are there. There's 4 people in City Hall. There's 3 people in Public Works. There's 8 people in the Police Department. And we can only do so much. And that's in addition to the extra requests, you know, that come in and the things that come up. Those are things that we put on a list to look at and say, like, would it be feasible at some point to put solar on this roof and other, you know, pavilions and things like that. But then you've got people looking and saying, no, it's ugly, and it takes away. So, I mean, but those are things, and you've got others that don't believe climate change is a problem, and so drill, baby, drill. So, I mean, whatever.
With a little bit, get the solar panels up with like a roof shingles.
But that is something we can put on a list in the sense of, and I understand, you know, those ideas will come out of there.
Just to say that, even the panels.
Are you, Charlene?
I'm sorry.
Yes, I noticed on this other paperwork, and I don't know if it's in Parks and Rec or not, because I see 4th of July is. The Christmas tree lighting, is that in Parks and Rec, or where's that at? 'Cause I'm not seeing it.
We'll get down. We got a couple more lines. No, we'll get to this, and just give me 2 or 3 more lines, and we'll get to it.
Will you show me where it is?
Okay. Well, if you're on page 31, we're at the utility, water, rents and leases. If you see building maintenance, we have 20, 25. If you look over what we spent, 60, 70, almost, you know, 78,000. But I think some of those were some one-time hits that Rick used to try to get caught up in terms of that process. But again, we're making some risks here on trying to have it as lean and flat as it is. So, you know, and that's at 7.42. So if we're looking for $176,000, I mean, I think when we get this all added up and collected too, we're going to find, we'll see where we get, okay? In special events, I put 16,000. We had 0, but we spent 784 when we sat down with staff, or we sat down with Karen, and we went over every event that was there and kind of came up with a dollar amount of what the city's costs are in buying candy, eggs, and, you know, the band for July 4th, I mean, you know, and things of that nature. Well, actually, yes, that's in that line item. So that's where your special event cost items are for the events that the Woody sits on. And then the July 4th expenses, that's really fireworks.
Right.
Okay, and then we have market in the park. Spend 353, but just put money in there just to provide us a cushion if something came up. Stress busters, why it brings in revenue, but Kelly provided me in a very detailed and professional packet on that race, and I want to thank you, Kelly, on that. It tracked every penny and whatever you had on there, but the invoice in there said they were going to be charging us $19,000 for that this year. So we're budgeting that on that process. We cut other current charges from 15 to 5, and operating supplies. That was calculated out. No, is that Rick? Is that the chemical?
No, that's a utility.
Utility, okay.
Operating supplies are like your mower blades, your
Yeah,
belts.
yeah.
Not general fund.
In Parks and Rec, yes.
Parks and Rec, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, parks, yeah.
They're not utility items.
Okay.
Okay. Fuel, we went up just based on the fact that we're paying more like everybody else. No vehicle equipment and no capital on there, and we can deal with that when we do the review of the capital list. So Parks and Rec based on this was 247 for 2025 versus 255 for 2024. Creative Arts Cafe, you saw the pictures from Rick on the building. I don't know if 5 is the right amount, but I kept it at that amount. That was there last year. Oh, excuse me, I take that back. They call it building maintenance twice, but one of these is the electric, the utility.
5,000.
Yeah, it's the utility. And even though they've indicated they want to terminate the contract, I think I was advised that we hadn't been paying 50% of the utility bill. So part of the true-up, if the contract gets terminated, we may get a bill from them in reference to what they wrote. So I put $5,000 in to hold that, and then we put $10,000 in for the building, and that was a $5,000 increase. That 10 probably is not going to cover what Rick showed, but we at least increase that in terms of there. So the cafe did increase by 5,000 to 15, but it's that the building maintenance in terms of that. Police.
Did we cover the network payments?
What we're doing there, I talked with Zach, and this is where the accounting line comes in. I had budgeted that additional payment to come out in another one in 26. From an accounting standpoint, Zach is going to show on paper that we eat that this year. So you're going to find that in a budget amendment in terms of that process. Still means we have a payment in January of 25 and January 26. But we're writing off the
Yeah, it's basically we've incurred the entire liability, they're just allowing the grace period, so the entire expense, the one.
He's incurring the
is all
152 in the 2024 budget.
Yeah, so basically we've got the full expense in there, so we've got a $100,000 liability on the report, so when we make those payments, it'll just be a balance sheet transaction versus a budget.
Yeah, got it.
Are we still going on, please?
Now we're on the list. Most of the stuff at the top, but you've got questions coming down. down, I think, well, that went up, 10, we were at 2104 through, that report in June, so I trended that out of what that would be.
How do we end up with 30,000 officers? I think we have one working 12 hours, and they switch 12 hours.
12 hours. They all work 12 hours.
No, sorry.
They all work 12
That's what I
hours.
said. That's what I said.
Gotcha.
So if they're working 12 hours shifts, one each, on duty, then how many do you have off?
Then how many do you have on?
How many officers do you have off during a 24-hour period?
We have 50% of the time there's only one officer. So from 2 o'clock in the afternoon to 2 o'clock in the morning, we have 2 officers. And the other time.
Now, Brandon, does this also cover the overtime for events?
This is events, yeah, the 4th of July.
Yeah, so like
2,000.
the Strawberry Festival, what was the dollar amount? Now, you get a check back, but you
Correct.
still have to show it as an expense line in there, but we get a revenue side that offsets that. So not all of that is directly operational from his day to day. Some of that are, you know, when he's got
Yeah,
people out on July 4th and all the other events.
Correct, and not only that, but the court is part of that. So court is part of that. So when an officer writes a ticket, a good, I don't know, Joey, what is it, 1 out of 5?
Tickets?
Yeah, go ahead. Go to court. That's minimum of 2 hours. You know, so to have a night shift officer is working 7 at night to 7 in the morning, but he has to get up at 1 o'clock and do court and then come back to work that night. Even if he's in court 5 minutes, if you're being called in, or you have court, it's a minimum of 2 hours. So our court goes over 2 hours. But a lot of that overtime is going to be court overtime. So the more traffic that's done, the overtime is going to go up.
I think
And
the
that's one of the reasons why.
probably the 3 key items there, and you can look at utility and building maintenance and equipment, whatever, but I think where we get down to is what is the difference between 807 and $1 million is the equipment at 40, vehicle equipment at 45, and the police principal at 57. So those are probably the 3 items that might be better to have discussion on in terms of there. We had a brief one going in. Can we start with the first one, Brandon, on the equipment at 40? What I wanted to say in there, it's actually went down from 45, but I will say, and you guys can make this decision. I've had a couple of commissioners at times that talk with traffic issues on various roads and what have you. And so in that amount, and tell me, Brandon, if I'm wrong, I think it's in that equipment line item, there's like $18,000 for one of those traffic devices that you see on the road that you put up. And not only does it show what people are doing, these actually track the number of cars. They tell you how fast they're going. You can print out a report. So if people say everybody's speeding on this road, we can actually identify what truly is the average speed. The standard in the industry is 85%, but these machines in tracking that, so when someone tells us they're speeding on a road, we can validate that, and we can show them the proof that maybe it's really not, that it's a small number of cars, and if it shows it is, then we know we have a problem. It validates that problem, and then we can take action. So, I mean, we don't have this now. The trailer we have now is broken, not working, repaired, and it's sitting out in public works, but this is a new piece I put in. Brandon is not a big believer in them, and I don't think it's in a negative, I mean, in the sense of our discussion, in terms of that, but I have seen value when you get a dispute with residents on a road to be able to have that quantified.
So that's half of what's planned
Yeah.
here, so what's the other half?
Other half,
That's-
some that's involved, that's done, so there's some that hasn't involved yet, so we might only have $6,300, but that's gonna be close to 20,000 for it.
Are your officers being issued Lake Island guns, or each one officer carries his own firearm.
Already supplied them to the,
But
some of the reserves have their own firearms, but that's, some of them are marshals or not.
There's like acrobats that carry their own guns.
Yeah, they carry, but we still supply them. So every officer is still gonna be, especially full-time, is gonna have their own gun.
you have to turn something in if you have a shooting.
I'm sorry?
You have to turn your firearm in if there's a, let's say, discharge. or-
To have the OP.
So you have to turn your firearm in and then we have a backup for that.
Yeah, it's not long, but, no, we can't get it back. We turn our gun in, you know, it's nice, you don't get your gun back.
Then they get a Nerf one.
Yeah, you don't get a replacement right away. You're usually on leave. Or
Wait list.
Exactly. So,
I got you.
All right,
Traffic device, is it portable?
so,
I'm sorry?
The traffic device, is it portable?
Yes.
yes, ma'am, that would be able to be relocated. Now, there are certain areas it can't go because Brandon was telling me how it's got to be blocked off and buffered and coned and whatever. So there's some roads that it couldn't be used on, but it could be beneficial. I mean, and I'm going to say, we disagree, you know, and so the commission took that out. That's okay. I just know that we've had a couple of instances where I've had folks
Took
come
it out
out
of the
and
budget, you took that item out of the budget?
No, the commission could.
Oh, the commission could.
Yeah, I'm saying it's in there right now, but just in the sense that the number of people that I have called me in 5 months, and I know Heather's had a specific one, you know, in terms of there. And sometimes we can say we can do enforcement, but that only works when the officer's there. And so I'm a believer in them in the sense that it provides the data. Sometimes the people don't like the data because it proves there is not a speeding problem on the road, but at least it allows us to give a validated scientific. Okay.
What's the cost of that? Is that?
$17,787.37, so $18,000 out of that 40.
Well, if you get it to pull up tax numbers.
What's that?
If you get one to pull up tax numbers, you didn't have to pay.
Yeah, I don't think that's an LPR, that's another device.
So the real discussion might be there, and I'll give that to Brandon and maybe a little bit on Zach, is the 45,000 vehicle equipment. I thought that was kind of like a capital fund that you guys created a while back, was to try to build up so that, you know, down the road, you would have money built up so you could purchase cars. And the 57 is the two that would be under the lease. Correct.
Question?
Yes, on the principal, the police car principal, that's what we're paying currently.
For the two.
But with the two cars that were approved,
In this year.
yes.
My other question is we're now third out, when we get to third out, we need to take a break. Matt?
I do want to stress also that when it comes down to police equipment, it is difficult to give a forecast because police equipment is police equipment. So it doesn't come cheap. It's one of those things that, like Taser, for example, they got it, it's Taser. You know, I can't just say, well, I go to Walmart and get a Taser, they charge a lot less. You gotta buy it through Taser because they're the ones that make it, and they don't come cheap. You know, it's just the way government is.
It's like Motorola glass for the monopoly on the radio.
In the last 5 years, even on the private sector, that's gone, these are things you have to have. You know, that's gone, what used to cost $500, easy $1,600 for the exact same vest that you could have gotten 10 years ago. So as inflation goes up, the equipment goes up, and sometimes the equipment can double. Sometimes it doesn't go up at all, but it's really difficult for me to judge. I stress with having that capital in there that I put in there because the time could come like it did when I first became chief. There was nothing in there. We had a new computer system or a new computer program that was taken over with the county. None of our computers were the corporate ones. We had a new radio system that's coming live, none of our radios. So I had to get new laptops and I had to get new radios. Those radios were about $5,000 a piece. You know, we got a deal on it. If we couldn't get those, if I waited till June, I mean, the system hasn't been gone live yet, but if I would have waited until June of 22 to get the radios, it would have cost me $15,000 a piece. So we got 60%.
Is it Motorola?
Yeah, no, Harris.
Okay.
Harris, yeah. So as I said, these are things that just come. you know, that you might not know about. They just come and say, hey, guess what? These radios will go to a whole new system, they're gonna become obsolete. We don't have a choice to go to another program or another place for radios because Harris has the tower for Volusia County. There is no Motorola, you know, there is no, like Seminole County uses Motorola. So these are just things that come up and instructions need to have that capital. And that's also includes cars. That also includes cars. And back in 2012, when we bought the police cars, there was supposed to be 20,000 set aside for police cars. It was never, you know, so when all of a sudden our cars started going down to 20 tons, and then all of a sudden we got to come up with $250,000 to buy these new cars, money. You know, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. You know, it doesn't matter if I'm against it or not. You know, it's just, it's not that I'm against them. I mean, they're just pros and cons to every small town. You know, sometimes those cons are far out from those. But, and when you look at the cost factor, that's not a cost that is, this is how much body this cost. It's the storage. That stuff has to stay there forever. So next year, you got to increase your storage. The year after that, you got to increase your storage. It's a compound cost. So I can start out at $50,000 a year and turn it into $500,000. You know, of course, I'm exaggerating a little bit. I'm just giving you an example. Some cities are actually out there, have got
No, I agree with the chief. That's the biggest cost to agencies because of the public record and storing all of that data. But I am a big believer that I believe the body cam is an officer's best friend. When somebody says, you said something to me, you treated me, or what have you, that is like, let's go to the tape. And I've been in a city manager situation where residents have called and complained about a stop and a ticket. And I've looked at it, and I've looked at the chief, and sometimes I will tell them, are you really sure you want to file this complaint? And when you find out that they were screaming and cussing at the officer at the end of the driveway and what have you, a couple of them still wanted to come in and do that. The spouse would come in with them. The spouse would look at the video. Whatever discussion happened outside of that room was between them. But I mean, I have found it to work 90% in the officer's favors. And yes, there are times it catches bad officers, and that should be done too.
And it protects the city.
But we didn't put them in. I mean, that's something that we could put on the list and have a further discussion. Because it isn't just the cost of them, it is then having a separate server and all of that. Then they become public records requests. You've got to have a way to.
And then you got to have, there's a responsibility.
Yeah, there's almost like a separate service for it.
Who is responsible for every single ship. And not only those things to keep, and that's what's an added responsibility. Probably the job they're already, I'm just saying. So there's more responsibility. When you go to another agency, you have a full-time job, you know, other agencies to do that. So when we start talking about responsibilities and stuff like that with officers, or this officer is doing this officer has all these responsibilities, pays the same. You know, that there, all those factors come, so.
I don't think that it would be that much though. In reality, I don't.
No, but it's, I'm just saying, it's still that responsibility. When I'm talking about responsibility, it is, but when I'm talking about, you know, you gotta, you know, can't be late for work. I'm talking about a responsibility that, for instance, if you're in evidence, if evidence comes up missing, guess who's responsible for it? Could be evidence. You know, it could be, so it's a responsibility. You know, that we make the wrong decision in the call because we only get sometimes seconds to make a decision. We don't get to sit down, you know, when we have an issue and say, okay, we need to have a workshop, or let me go talk to my supervisor and find out. Some of our decisions have to be made just like that. And we can make the wrong decision and then get sued, you know, and then lose corruption. These are heavy responsibilities, and that's what we deal with. You know, granted, it doesn't happen all the time. It's a very small percentage.
That's why you guys go through training to make sure.
Yeah, it is, but I mean, you know, I'm just letting you know.
No, I know, I'm giving me the big picture, but I'm still lifetime on board.
We've
Oh, no, that wasn't even
about
about
a page and a
I'm
half.
sorry.
of general fund. Yeah, yes.
Okay, so this bottom number here, 1,034,000. sheriff's department. Had nothing to do personal, it's just from a money standpoint situation. And the other question, and because we need to make, educated decisions. The other thing is how much are those two vehicles that we have on order yet going to be?
What's that? They're not ordered.
They're not ordered, they're not
No,
ordered.
right now I have to wait till 25.
Okay.
And I did tell him, based on the comments, and freeze and whatever, I mean, so Brandon knows that there could be a risk in the sense that, the commission says hold off. So I mean, that's a discussion that has to happen, not necessarily tonight, but at least between now and September.
Yeah, when it was approved, the very next day, Friday, when I went to purchase them, they said it was.
Oh. Okay.
So I'm going to talk about the equipment really quickly if you can, because, Chief, what I'm hearing is that you're not in favor of the $18,000 piece of equipment that runs radar and tracks and does all of that. So, and what you have built in, 45,000 into reserve, this, that, and the other thing. So I feel like you're already kind of having for what you need. And
Potentially need that, yeah.
right, and as the expert on this, I kind of want to defer to what you're telling me. If that's an $18,000 expense you don't need, maybe that's something we need to take out. I mean, I understand the pros of it as well, as the administrator mentioned, but, I'm not an expert in police activity and what your needs are, so I would just say, let's listen to what Chief is telling us to take that $18,000 out. That's $18,000 we don't need to spend. We don't have it right now to spend, so.
Okay. Is there a consensus? It would come out of the equipment line item for police, and it's 17,000, let's just say 18,000, it's just under 18,000, which would be the, let's just call it the portable traffic handler.
So it would go to 22,000.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something that maybe we can keep in the back of our minds, put on that list that we're talking about for 2025 and bring it back to the table. But right now, we're trying to reduce the budget and lower the millage. And so, I mean, $18,000 is $18,000. So, yeah.
Consensus? Okay.
So let's keep that.
All right, we want to move in, well, fire is what it is, that's a pass-through. Okay, so not a lot of discussion,
I'll just
Go ahead.
add for perspective going forward. So the contract, I think that was approved last summer, that renewal, it had language where the fire contract price for the county will increase by the percent change in our value. So the ad valorem at 14.3. Plus there was a catch-up provision of 5% per year until the fire assessment charge equals what we would pay if we were in the fire district. So in theory, we would take our assessed value times the county fire millage rate and get to that eventually. So the increase in that is about 19.5% based on that language. So next year, I would expect we'll have a 5% plus whatever our increase in value.
The county fee in 23-24 to a Volusia County taxpayer is $510.12. We're paying $336.21. So that's what it has to get up to. That doesn't change.
Can you explain that to me? That this is the fire we're talking about. Okay. This is the county fee we're talking about. This they charge to us. And then we're paying over $500,000 towards the fire on contract.
To the county, yes, for those services.
So it's a double whammy, right?
No, that is the assessment.
That's the 500,000 along with your 19 cents.
Yeah, it went up to 622,000.
Yeah, and it got raised on July 11th when you raised the assessments. That was one of the increases on the fire.
Now, I thought you were saying, okay, county was going to charge us this much plus 19%.
No, they've allowed the city, instead of saying outright, you owe us 510 to catch it up, they've allowed to do it in pieces.
Public service announcement.
It's nice and cool without everybody.
All right,
Oh, is it?
And the library.
We all haul.
contract services, we put $20,000 in for the lakes. Ricky was able to get some of those services donated this year in terms of that, but we at least wanted to hold that in there and not remove that out. And the cemetery, we had spent 54, so we reduced that. So that was 40,000, and we picked up $5,000 in savings there, going to 35. Okay, roads. Ricky might need to. Roads is 33.
Could you repeat the lake part one more time? I'm sorry.
Pardon?
Could you repeat the lake part one more time for 20,000?
Yeah, the city has traditionally budgeted $20,000 towards the lakes and for something extra that we need to do. Right now, the agreement we have with the Florida Wildlife Commission, they cover all of that at no cost and they don't bill us because we have an agreement, with them. But like, for example, we just went in and did a culvert repair on Lake Helen. If you'll see on Michigan and Lemon, if you come around there, you'll see some improvement in there for the flow. They asked for us to do that because they want to come back in the fall, put a grate over that, and then add some special fish in there, then we'll do some further treatment. But, so we just kept the amount in there.
And we used a lot of that for the machine to go in there and clean it. When we had the lay day on that last time, since Fort Wildcat has one, they donated doing it. And maybe they'll do some, but we still have to keep that lake edge clean around there. And that's in there, that cemetery money's there, because we still have some more surveying to do to break down the plots even lower. And there, and you'll see in the, if I put in the streets department, you're gonna see the road materials is for the millings and stuff. This is more for surveying, to break them down even more now. Once we get this section fixed, and get them all marked out.
Okay. So do we anticipate 20,000 coming out or no?
On the lake,
For the lake and 15 for the cemetery?
I'm gonna say probably
Really not maybe half that.
not half. It's about $5,000 or $6,000 to clean if you have to pay for it somewhere in there. Last time we did it, do it probably maybe take a few, but it's not, I couldn't tell you. I got it as low as I possibly thought it could be, and if we do get donations, it'll just offset,
Right.
And we did reduce it
I just
5.
can't bank on that and say, I'm gonna do it for free.
No, right, I understand.
But we did reduce it 5 to
Yes.
35,000,
Yes.
40 in current. All right, Rick, going to let you just kind of, first of all, we know, basically, I think the first line item we get to is professional services, because that might be one where.
That's mainly tree trimming and right-of-way trimming that we have subcontracted out. Dead trees, people call, we got a dead tree on the right-of-way, it's on our house, we'll never have it removed. So pretty much that does a lot of that there. Traditionally, before I left, that's the number we had in there for many years to continue doing the program through, because the trees still grow. But as we go through, they have to still come back and start over again. And then we can't do what we can, because we're Kansas City. But you have a lot of trees that have to be removed because they go through their dead or whatever. Hurricanes hit, we gotta have it removed. So that's there. The majority of it is tree trimming and right of way, where they use the machine to go out, cut the right of way up 18 feet, go down. They can do it quicker and faster than we can ever do it by hand. It's safer to do it out by hand.
We go out for bids on that.
We use some for a Bobcat, they're already up Volusia County contract.
For the county roads, do we get anything back from the county?
We don't do county roads. So I call Robert Peterson, and Robert Peterson takes care of that.
Okay.
What they do, work with us. We had the tree noted out on Lakeview a few weeks ago. We went out and responded before I could get to it, it wasn't a whole big deal. They come out, but we try to do small things for them, because when we need something very big, I can call them up and say, Robbie, we've got a street, I need you to come out, and we get a good relationship there.
Because sometimes the residents are on those county roads, if there's something done, they call us.
They can contact us, and I can contact Road and Bridge, if they can't rent it, I can contact the supervisor there.
And that's what I referred to when I told Lakeview, because
Yeah,
the street.
and if it's something small like a lipstick, we'll go take care of it. It's our citizens there.
Yeah.
We clean the roads up and everything. We mow them, they mow them too, we mow them too, because it's part of our town. You know, we don't, you live on a county road, we're not gonna take care of it.
I think
No.
I think that's good that we make that distinction, because we are doing something just for the purposes of making sure that our city looks good.
Absolutely.
And sometimes you just want to let them know that we are actually doing something that the county might see their responsibility, but because you're our town, we're going to take care of it. It doesn't always get translated that way or something.
And again, you stressed in there, a lot of that has to do with trimming and what have you, which we're exceeding the current budget.
Absolutely. Trying to do a little bit of, that was hanging, that I showed you pictures. Church Street's so bad, the areas, you just gotta get it done, it's gotta be cut up there. You have to do it, with the full crew, they come out, and they can get rid of all the debris, we're gonna have a chipper, that we gotta keep toting back and forth, but a dump truck, we don't, that's no good. Yeah.
What's the difference between contracted services and professional services?
The contracted services we used this year, we're gonna use that for paving the intersections and everything that we have, the bad intersections down there. So if you take, probably looking at probably 45 to 50,000 just for a few intersections to get done. And then you have other things that go along that we have more there. And then the other things are incorporated, I don't know exactly.
Do we have somebody that we use for that, for paving?
No, we actually go to the county because we have a work agreement with them. And I've already got the county out there, but sometimes I go out and ask, like right now with FEMA thing, the county's gonna give us a price. And then two of them have to go 3 bids to get that out there. We try to leave with the county if we can. Like storm drain cleaning, you have that stormwater coming up, we have a lot of money in there for that. The county's the only one you can get to do that. And they're about $1,500 a day right now. They do a lot of drains for that, but they're the only one. To have a private company come out would be astronomical. So we utilize the county and our